right, here we go, folks. It's the Pale Reflections podcast. Proud member of Doof Media.
Wild Bo's web serial, Pale, is the story that we cover.
My name is Reuben Morehouse.
And I'm Elliot Diebold.
We're here to reflect on Arc 10.
Because the last step was unresolved.
So from Pale in comparison,
Malia and Jenny
are back to help us figure out
what Kenneth is all about.
We're back. Welcome back to our special holiday 2-part episode.
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Arc 10. Of course, as you heard from that, we have Malia and Jenny back again. Welcome back, folks.
I was not prepared. That's so good.
We had to step up after everyone loved your Christmas carols last week.
Exactly. We're really going to get into the holiday spirit. It's actually genuinely really cold here.
Yeah, I'm freezing. I'm wearing gloves and everything.
So I feel like I'm like 2 steps away from American White Christmas.
Dang, that's amazing. Wow. Sorry, that was wonderful. I loved it. Thank you guys. Now the episodes actually fit together. So I mean,
they're thematically linked.
It was all planned.
Exactly.
So where were we?
Yep. So last time on Pale Reflections, we talked about a bunch of stuff that we're reflecting through. We're effectively going through, obviously because one after another had so many different perspectives, we're effectively going through perspective by perspective and talking about characters and what we thought about them. We had recently done Lucy, and we were just about to get to Alpy.
Yes.
So what did we all think of Alpy? How are we feeling about Nightmare Queen?
She's very systematic. Like she's just so powerful and she seems to know what to do so well. I'm wondering like how much of it was intuitive, how much of it was like trial and error. But at first she was like, oh, I'm in this person's nightmare and this person's nightmare and this person. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, you're like, oh, I collected that thing from this person. And I was like, what? And then the way it all like weaves together into this like trap box, like delving scenario for Raph was like really cool. And like really scary. Nightmares can really like mess a person up, but it doesn't seem necessarily like a tangible lasting harm. But also this is horrifying. And I'm not really sure how I feel.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
That moment where like all of the pieces of her intricate puzzle came together and like let her inception further into like Raph's nightmares was like, yeah, you're right. It sort of happens and you're like, holy shit, she's really good at this. Like she's just used spare parts from other people's nightmares to systematically break down this guy's psyche to the point where she can invade him. Like that's horrifying.
It's terrifying. She's definitely a master of her craft. It kind of makes me wonder what were her nightmares like when she first started out? You know, because she can't have been this good right off the bat. Like I feel like they must have been some real like, I don't know, just
canonically, if you have a nightmare that's just an exam for a class you haven't taken in years, that's a new mare starting to learn the ropes.
Yes. Like it kind of sucks, but you know, it
doesn't really quite make sense.
Somewhat basic.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like Alpy like taking on an apprentice, and she's like, okay, now we're just gonna start you with some basic shit. Like let's just do, forgot your homework, exam with no pants, like just sticking to the basics.
That's right. These are the classics for a reason. Okay. Got to use it to build up.
Yeah. And I mean, did she start on her family or was her family already gone by the time she started doing this? Because that's kind of fucked up, but good for her? Question mark.
It's a good question.
That's a good question.
Like, when did she transition from being this girl who'd like slipped through the cracks and been forgotten by her family and just like woke them up to actually somebody who could turn into goop and hop inside your head? Like,
yeah.
How does that happen? Yeah.
That's a great question. I don't know if, I do want to know the answer, but I feel like I'm going to be really freaked out. You see. Yeah. Like I was really impressed by the writing, in this. I'm impressed by all the writing, but I was really impressed by the writing here. Because it's, I feel like now, especially that I'm pregnant, I have really weird dreams. It's just one of those things when you're pregnant, you just have really vivid and strange dreams. And I try to, explain them to people sometimes 'cause I think they're funny. And it's really, I don't know, sometimes it's just really hard to follow. And somehow Wildbow just like made complete sense and was like, oh yeah, this is totally a dream. And I could see my brain following this exactly if I was in a dream. So
Yeah.
Right. It felt like kind of disjointed, but also like it made sense. And like I've had dreams where certain people from like elementary school stood in as like an archetype almost in my head. And I was
Yeah.
like, woke up and I was like, oh, they represented, like, I haven't had a crush on that boy since 5th grade. But like my brain is like, this is what this means. And
This is what a
that was
crush
just really...
looks like or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the way you'll just kind of, obviously in a dream, you'll just have this moment of like, you'll latch onto an idea, even though that's not the main thing you're focused on. And then that kind of becomes the thread that you follow through some kind of chain of absurd logic as you're just following this one thought. It felt very dreamlike, but also very, because we're in Alpie's head, like we can actually understand what's going on, which was a nice balancing act.
Yeah, it captured the fuzziness of dream logic in a really cool way. Because, like, especially, I think one of the things that's hard to explain when you're awake is like, when you're dreaming, for most people, it's like the part of your brain that kind of filters out what is realistic and makes sense and what isn't. It gets switched off. So it's like really hard to explain it when you're awake because you just have to kind of give people this like things like, oh yeah, and so then me and my best friend from primary school went and fought the dragon, and it's like, what? Why? And it's just like, oh, we just did. And you could sort of see like how Alpi is sort of manipulating that aspect of dreaming where she can just like put people like Melissa in here just to see what happens, and like he's not going to question it because he's in a dream, but it's a line she has to walk really carefully because if she does something really bad and he does question it, then like the spell is broken.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of a kind of a weird question, but have you guys had any weird dreams recently that you'd like to share with the world? You're like, no.
I actually don't have dreams anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
I dream
Really?
maybe once every couple of years.
Yeah, same.
Or that I
Wow.
remember. I think you dream a lot, but it's whether you remember
Well,
them.
yeah, actually,
That's true.
That's true because I often if I get woken up by something like an hour earlier than I normally would wake up, I'll remember having a dream. But since I usually will just wake up naturally without an alarm or anything, I guess my body just has already kind of filtered out all the dream shit.
Yeah, same.
Oh, okay. I feel like I didn't look this up as an actual fact, but I feel like I've heard before that you like half of your dreams are in black and white. I don't know if that's actual.
I heard like a thing that was like what are now older people more often dream in black and white because and they tied it to black and white TVs. Like there was this like generational thing that people who were watching tons of black and white stuff in cinemas and on TV, it started to impact dreams. So maybe, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe that's a thing. Maybe it's like half dreams because just the current demographics, it's like half old people doing those dreams. And that's fading
Maybe.
out.
Interesting. That could definitely be it. I've been having a lot of work dreams recently. Although, I'm probably going to think this is a lot more entertaining than anyone else. But because I work in a procedural area and my job is to basically sedate people. And I had a dream that one of the procedures we were doing, the nurse had to be sedated along with the patient. So like I was being rolled out on a gurney and like, just one of my coworkers was like, all right, Jenny, here you go. So
that sounds like you'd be a real asset to the team in that situation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's for any real horrifying medical procedures, you need to sedate and restrain the surgical staff as well as the.
Yeah, I'm sure that'd be real reassuring. You'd be like, oh man.
Maybe jumping ahead a bit here, but you get that 10.Z thing where you just get the doctors and the nurses to do like Matthew did and remove the parts of themselves that will be upset.
That's true.
That's practical practicing right there.
Yeah. I actually had a work dream. I just remembered. This was actually, you know what? This was like 2 days before I met you, Reuben.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you remember.
Dreamt that you were going to meet a
my
important
gosh.
figure in your life.
Exactly.
Would make you read a lot of Wild Boar stories.
No, I don't know if you remember, but the day you started at the place that we met was the day after I'd done an all-nighter with a bunch of the other guys to get something done. And at about like 3:30 a.m., it was like, so we're putting this all-nighter to meet a big deadline. And I'd gotten to the point where I was making more mistakes than contributions. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go take like a quick hour-and-a-half nap and come back, but I think that'll be helpful overall. Everyone agreed. So I went and found a couch in the office, and I spent an hour and a half vividly dreaming about working on the project. And so like I woke up at 5 feeling even worse and having just gone through an hour and a half of work anyway. And I was like, well, that is the most pointless nap I have ever taken.
That's awful. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
good stuff.
I'm sorry. That's the worst.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Sometimes I dream that I'm speaking German because like I took German in college, and I'm never quite sure like if I'm right when I wake up. Like
Like, was
were
that
the
real
words I was
German? Yeah.
saying actually German or what? Because like I kind of, even when I talk to people in German, I tend to remember like the English translation of it in my mind. And I'm just never quite sure if I was actually speaking German in my dreams, because they're like, once you can dream in German, you're fluent. And I'm like, I still don't know.
Yeah, it only counts if your German's legit and not just nonsense, nonsense stereotyping.
I've always found that idea fascinating. Like, as someone who only speaks one language, I'm so jealous of the like multilingual people's brains can work like that. Like my ex sometimes, like if she woke up from a dream or something, she'd speak at me in like Cantonese for a minute, and it would sort of be like, I'd be like, I can't understand you. Like I don't speak Cantonese. Can we please do English? It would take her brain a minute to sort of reset, and I always found stuff like that fascinating.
It's pretty cool. I should ask my husband about that a bit more, because he's from Lithuania and speaks fluent Lithuanian. I feel like he's told me he dreams in Lithuanian sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. Not a lot of people who speak that around here, so he doesn't get quite as much interaction with other people with that language. But yeah, I wish I'm trying to learn, but it's hard.
Well, just practicing your dreams.
Of course.
She can't. She's sedated.
Duh.
Like, stop dreaming about getting drugged up at work. Like, start trying to practice languages.
Yeah, dream that you're practicing your Lithuanian.
I have this app for Lithuanian, and my kid is unfortunately terrified of robotic sounding voices, to where we can't even put on like Google Maps, like, because he will like just go hysterical. So yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with really what we were talking about.
Well, he'll be the lone survivor when the robots take over.
That's true.
He's ready for it.
He's ready. Like, yeah. He already has that like ingrained suspicion where it's like, Mom, why are you following what the creepy voices are saying? Like, stop it.
It's a good point.
Yeah, no, maybe he's the one sane person in a world of people who've gone mad and are listening to robotic voices too much.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
so we've been talking about dreams, and I just think the thing that is so fascinating about this is it's all this like, in the same way that all of Pale has this like really literary quality, a lot of these dreams that we've just been kind of chit-chatting about have this really like interesting literary quality, which makes it really emphasize why Alpian dreams are such a perfect like framing for Otherverse stuff.
It honestly makes me like think about. I'm impressed that it's taken this story like over 1 million words to start leaning on dreams as a thing, because like dreams in more sci-fi than fantasy, but even in a lot of fantasy, are a bit of a pet peeve of mine because I don't usually like how they're treated. But this is like the one universe where it's absolutely like, yeah, we can lean on the more metaphorical and symbolic meanings of dreams because that's what this world is. Like it's such a natural fit in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really good way to like learn about a person as well. Like I feel like my dreams tend to reflect things I've been thinking about or like different things from my life. Like I like that it's not just like, I mean, I fall for all the dream tropes. I think they're kind of fun, but this isn't just like a straightforward message from another person trying to get in contact with them, or like a vision of the future. Like, it's like, we're gonna fuck around with your dreams to mess with your mind in a way that, like, I think someone on the Discord said was even like better than Inception. And it was just like, yeah, like it just has so much more fun with it in a way that like wouldn't necessarily work in a movie, but it was really neat.
Yeah, well, I think as we've touched on all these things, I think it did well. And yeah, I think it was just Walbo seemed to have really thought about how dreams work and how they should work in the story and what that like how it should all fit together.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, so unless there's any more dream talk, I guess the next character on our list would be the man himself, Toad Swallow, or Turd Swallow, as it were.
Yes. Origin story time. Woo! That was, I mean, I guess it does kind of fit him that he was clever, like, immediately as, as soon as he was born. Which, man, I don't know. Just reading this, I know that it's in their nature as goblins to be, like, violent and, I don't know, like, gross little fuckers. But it's, man, that I can't imagine how much that would suck to just, like, be born ready for life and then immediately, like, get sent to try to fight for your death,
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Now that you mention it, it is weird that this is effectively a baby fight club.
Yeah, it really is.
It didn't really dawn on me until we've just talked about it, but it's a baby fight club.
It is. It's a baby fight club. Like, man, you sick adults, do it yourself. Like, jeez. Well, I would probably have to do it, but
I don't know. You could probably question if they're like, were they adults or are they like other like 7-year-olds? Like, like I feel like that's the big thing.
That's true
for me with goblins. Is it's been like Malia, you sort of commented that like, oh, it's in their nature, but I feel like that's something that's getting challenged with people like Peckersnot and like even Toad Swallow feels like he's trying to change some of the vibe of goblins. It's sort of like it might be partially in their nature or whatever, but like leaning into it and, having an encouraging baby fight clubs makes it worse because when you have these baby fight clubs, that means most of the babies who are surviving are like the naturally violent and shitty ones.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
It's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's really nice that Toad Swallow's trying to, I don't know, he kind of changed up his whole persona. And
yeah, I think he recognized like that's what he needed to do. Like, he's just so intelligent and he has such like a talent for working with children and like teaching and mentoring and stuff that I think that he recognized that about himself and was like, if I'm in a world where like to survive or to thrive, I suppose, as a goblin, I have to like physically dominate everyone around me. That's not going to work. Yeah, he's a smart cookie.
Definitely.
Yeah. Which like wasn't one of the stereotypes of goblins that they're stupid. So he's kind of, like right from the get-go kind of fighting, some of these things. Like I don't know. I'm so curious. I have such hopes for like him and Peckersnot and stuff to just like create versions of goblin culture that aren't toxic but are still distinctly goblin. Like I don't think all goblins need to become, fucking rose loving, like people who run around in a field, but they also don't need to be like violent murderers.
No,
there's a middle ground here.
Yeah, that's true. There can still be a lot of, I guess, grossness if you're clever, Yeah,
still do fart jokes. Fart jokes are fine.
Oh, yeah.
Like, don't, kill people.
Yeah, don't kill people.
Yeah. Well, this reminds me of his whole plan. Sorry if you heard the thunder. That was horrifying. But this reminds me of Toad Swallow's whole plan for like the 8th court or whatever. And like I feel like goblins possibly need another place where they can exist that isn't like being drugged up out of the ground and beating each other up. And like this might be a really good opportunity for one. I was not fully understanding like Lucy's reaction. It felt like she was like maybe a little bit like she felt a little betrayed or something, and I just like wasn't totally sure. I read the Toad Swallow chapter very late at night, so I might not have understood, but it just kind of sounded like they want to set up like a fun little market thing. And like the vision of like Kennet as like a goblin hole town is not great, but they can probably make something else work. I'm not sure. It also seems like picking Snowdrop as like the goblin wizard. What is it called?
Sage.
Yeah. Like helps moderate that a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe that he's like, I like that idea of like he wants this eighth court to be that place where goblins can have their own like goblin place and culture or whatever, but it's also
Mhm.
not scummy and violent like the Warrens. It's
Mhm.
goblin, but it's something different. And I agree. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think like Lucy's problem was more just this idea that he had motives
secret?
that he hadn't been honest with them about.
Mhm.
Also, yeah, I don't know what it looks like for Kennet to be the host for this place, but
Yeah.
it's potentially not great. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the worst option, but I could
That's
see her
true.
not being super thrilled with it just because it is basically inviting a bunch of others and possibly practitioners and I don't know, people into the town that to buy, I mean, weapons. That's not really inviting the real peaceful love, like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of inviting a certain type of other to your town, just
That's
inviting more
fair.
violence.
I guess I thought that like some of the others would have a possibly bigger problem with it than the Kennetiers in terms of like,
Yeah,
I mean, like
absolutely.
Alby's not going to care. The fairy, you never know, but it just seems like it could potentially mess up the balance of the town in a way that they wouldn't like
Yeah.
before the Kennetiers would be perturbed.
Oh, I actually think the fairy might be very against
I feel
it.
like they'd be pissed.
Yeah, especially because it's like and not just the local fairy, but like my concern for this goblin court that Toadstool would try to set up is like I feel like it's going to be under all kinds of pressure and attack from other people who don't approve of the concept, both from other goblins and from fairy. Like it's, you know, I could see why he wants somewhere like Kennet to do it because he's going to need all these other kinds of backup probably to get his startup off the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, and seeing that Lucy didn't react like super great to it, that's not, I mean, that's just saying that, I mean, others might react even worse. So,
Fair.
you know,
But not Snowdrop.
that's
Got
true.
that job offer.
She's got the job offer, so she's set.
Right. So she's biased though. You can't,
That's true.
her.
Any other thoughts about Toad Swallow or Turd Swallow, whatever your preferred name is, I guess.
What do you think his like I don't know, like partner? I'm not sure what to call her.
Oh,
Beloved.
Yeah.
That was it.
His beloved, yes. In terms of her name or just I guess everything.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested to see what she's like now more. Because I feel like looking back in the flashbacks, like Toad Swallow or then Turd Swallow seemed to have a much different personality. So I'm curious if she is also acting a bit more I guess refined in comparison to her former self. Or if she's exactly the same and just accepts Toad Swallow as he is. I'm kind of curious about that. I also kind of hate what I know her real name probably is. Like, I'm like it's perfect, but I'm like, I hate that. It's so gross.
Yeah. Well, those like decision, I guess, to have a lot of the goblins like self-censor because of Toad Swallow is just like so fun because it
So
makes
great.
like it's funnier trying to guess and like figure it out than it is just having it like sitting right there in front of you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you're like, what is the most? Yeah, what's something really vile that this name is trying to get across? You know. Yeah, I'm kind. I mean, I think it'd be really fun to see her. I mean, I don't think we will in this story, but who knows? Maybe. I guess never say never. But
The honeymoon epilogue. They'll get
Yes.
married. Honeymoon epilogue.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That would, oh man, where would they go on their honeymoon?
Oh, that's a good question.
All right, that's this week's discussion question.
I almost feel like they'd go to like some fairy court just to like fuck around with him and like run away.
Maybe, but is that where you'd want to spend your time after just
Not
getting
like
married?
the whole time,
you know?
but
What about they could go to Wall Street?
To Wall Street.
Toad Swallow's, home away from home. And just torture the people on Wall Street.
Wow. I mean,
I do
that's
like that.
a pretty great option. That's a pretty good one. I think that kind of fits well. Yeah, I'm going with that. That sounds good. All right, well, we'll have to see if Wild Bill releases that bonus chapter. See if we were right about that.
That would be a fun little, like, Toad Swallow takes a trip to New York and just you see whatever happens when Toad Swallow goes to New York. I think that would be great.
Oh, that'd be so good.
You can call it New Pork. It's got to have the name starting.
It's got to have a P in it. Yeah.
And it's a honeymoon.
It's a honeymoon. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm for one looking forward to this coming out in the future. So let me see. I guess our next person, unless you guys want to talk more about Toad Swallow, but we've got Raphael next, who is definitely a yeah, I know. That sigh pretty much encapsulates like
I just had so many feelings about this man.
And done so dirty, right? Like,
yeah,
just
like,
done so dirty.
In every aspect of his life.
Yeah, like captured and like tortured by that milkmaid, then like weaponized by the other witch hunters, hired by Gilame to come to this town so that they could kill him.
It's awful.
I still don't believe that he's dead. Like, I understand that he's dead, but like, I don't know if y'all mentioned it in one of the like weekly episodes or whatever, but it was just like, yeah, like I'm so excited to see how the Kenneteers are gonna like take this man and like turn him to their side. And like he's like incredibly competent and he has like a really thorough backstory that fully explains like why he feels and acts the way that he does. And like, okay, you still shouldn't at all ever try to kill 13-year-olds. But like maybe we can work with that.
But
maybe we can work.
Here's the problem, right? The Kennet others don't want a smart, competent practitioner to be around. They would rather kill a smart, competent practitioner than have them around. Or at least some of the Kennet others.
Some of them.
E.g. Mariska, let's be real.
Yeah, that's true. It is really sad. I mean, yeah, the milkmaid, like finding out that was his backstory. Like, I mean, I remember reading a word of God about her like back in the day. I'm sure you guys must have read that, but I feel like, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't quite like, it still seemed creepy and all that, but like having this written out like this, oh my gosh, it was horrifying. Yeah. I'd say that that overtook the Hungry Choir for the most horrifying thing in the book, for me at least. Just yeah.
I think that for me, like the way it was written helped it not do that, just because like it was a dream and I was trying to figure out, is this real? What's going on? Because like I had never heard of the milkmaid and I was just like, and I didn't sink into it as much. Whereas like with Gabe's interlude, like you experience the entire thing like moment to moment. But that being said, this was probably objectively more disturbing, which is ridiculous to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's still that this happened, right? But I mean, that's fair if that helps you cope,
Yeah, it helped. Well, I just wanted to say him and the window, I couldn't emotionally handle that moment because I already sort of liked him or whatever. But when like Gilame says to Lucy, I think it was him, like he refuses to jump from the window. I like completely like died. I feel like Elliot in your like live tweets, you were like lol, and I was just like, no.
You're a monster, Elliot.
It was
Like,
such a
you
good
bastard.
callback because it's such a blink and you'll miss it like line. Like there's totally like a world where I just glanced past that line and was like, oh, okay, that's weird. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great little moment of his characterization.
Mhm. Yeah, well, especially because he just had a dream reliving that. I bet it was a lot
Yeah.
worse. Like maybe he
It's a
would
good
have
point.
in a different time.
That's true. He may have been able to, get past that if he hadn't just relived all that horror.
Mhm.
I guess the maybe one slightly good thing is that I guess it didn't have all the actual people that it happened to in his dream, so he didn't have to relive it exactly as it happened.
Yeah.
That's not really. I mean, that's real stretching it in terms of a bright point there, but yeah, it was terrifying.
I can't wait to see how your mum copes with the milkmaid and all this.
Man,
That's horrible.
she's gonna be just like, what kind of book is this? What have you guys gotten me to read?
I mean, hopefully by that point she'll have like
Yeah,
enough
if
of
she
a
gets up to the
backbone or something.
milkmaid
Yeah.
stuff, she's invested.
Yeah,
That's fair.
that's
For those
true.
who are wondering
I know.
what the hell we're talking about, you got to go listen to Pale in Comparison, and in that feed there are these episodes where Malia and Jenny are getting their mum to read Pale.
Yes.
They called it Our Mum Critiques Wildbow instead of calling it Motherverse, which I think would have been a great name for
Oh,
it.
that would have
Yeah.
been a great name.
We can
Ah,
rebrand. It's not too late.
That's true, but I don't know.
We just thought the idea
Yeah.
of someone's mom like telling Wildbow what to do was like so funny that we just sort of stuck with it.
Yeah, Motherverse is pretty darn good too. But dang, oh well, that's all right. You guys will have to get your moms on, and you could do a Motherverse episode.
I did get my dad to read the first 8 arcs of Worm.
Me too. My dad fell off the first 8 arcs.
Really?
After the first 8 arcs. Yeah.
But for my dad, it was because I got like a print done of the
Elliot,
first 8 arcs.
I had to print them out as well. This
Okay,
is so
good.
fucked up. I literally printed out like binders of Worm. Yeah.
And both of
good
them were
times.
like, nope, Arte, too much. I'm done.
No, I just didn't print anymore for him. It's
Oh,
all
okay.
my
Yeah.
dad stopped.
You're like, this is getting too expensive, too much printer paper, and yeah.
But it was great talking to my dad about it because he was like obviously this is a debate for the Worm fandom, but in the Taylor and Danny debate, he was firmly team Danny, and I just really liked that.
That's great.
That's pretty interesting.
I mean, of
like
all
it.
the Wildbow parents to Stan, it's probably among the least problematic.
Yes,
If
Oh,
you
for
read
sure.
Tail and was team Brett, then we're gonna have problems.
Yeah, that's a giant red flag right there. Like
Yeah.
straight to therapy for you. Like you should not be team Brett in any at all. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping our mom will do better than people expect. Yeah, she didn't like the eyes bleeding. But, who likes bleeding eyes? I get it. It's fine. But she did what was that?
I was gonna say it'd be funny if we turned it back around on mom and was like, you thought Louise was too sensitive. Like, you're too sensitive.
We'll have to think about that if it's getting to be too much. But she did tell me a couple because I was just like, there's some people that are worried about you in terms of continuing on in the story. And she's like, oh, I've read some kind of messed up stuff. And she did give me some examples that I was like, okay, maybe you'll be okay with this. Because anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, Malia kept pointing out in terms of Raphael having that angel figurine which was pretty interesting. He kept seeing it all over his dream in terms of trying to I guess possible escape routes
Mhm.
and talking about was he Catholic or was he was he religious in some way, or was that just a I don't know, a nice statue that he liked looking at or something? I don't know.
His escape hatch from the dream was also a church, right? Which
Yeah.
implied to me that religion in his life went beyond just that angel symbol, but I could be wrong, I suppose, but that was the vibe I got. That
Yeah, his name Raphael is like one of the, I always forget how many there are, but one of the like 9 archangels or whatever. And so like to me, I thought he was maybe Latino, which I think we've figured out that he's not. But like I was like, oh, he must be Catholic, once like the angel and the church and all this stuff. And I mean, maybe he's not Catholic. But I got really excited just because like I've seen things on the internet in certain corners that like I've seen like people actually ask, wait, how can you read fantasy if you are religious? Like, because there's so many like stories about parents not letting their kids read Harry Potter because they're like, oh, it's the devil worship and stuff, which like is true and sucks that there are people out there who are like shielding their children like that and can't separate like their faith from like fun made up stories. But it is really difficult to incorporate something like religion into a world like this where like magic is real, because like with like Greek and Norse gods, like they're not infallible and they're not all powerful, like they're kind of shitheads. And so you could totally make a story about, you know, some gods being shitheads, but when it's like, you know, here is Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, like you can't make fun of them or make fun of that or like put him into a story like this and expect people to be okay with it. Yeah. But that being said, it was like really exciting for me just to see that like characters in this world can exist fully in this world, but also still like have and retain faith potentially. Like I said, we don't really know with Raph, but I like it when there's a little space for like maybe religion could be true in this world and maybe it's not, and like that's fine. Like you're welcome here, religious people.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about like exploring that to some degree is the role like, you know, something like the ritual and like just the like in this world it's like and I guess the energy and the significance something has is sort of what gives it power. So it'd be interesting to see how that sort of played off of it. But
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like correct me if I'm wrong, but Raphael, wasn't he the archangel associated with healing? Have I made that up? Because I just always thought that was a funny name choice for this guy.
The guy who gets unceremoniously murdered.
Well, and he was doing the opposite of healing before he got killed too. Like,
true.
Like healing did not seem to be a big factor in his life.
That is
quick Google, he's like some of his patronages are apothecaries, bodily ills, blind people. Okay. It says druggists, which is a great word. Oh my gosh, y'all.
Blind people.
No, wait.
Lily.
Sorry. He's one of the patrons of nightmares. I'm like gonna lose it.
Oh,
that's good.
What? Really?
Whoa.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Okay.
Good job.
Damn, Wildbow, you're
Thanks
good.
for ruining my life.
Man. Okay, well.
Shit, it's all coming together.
Holy crap. I mean, that's it.
Yep. Well, on that note.
All right. Well, good podcast. No. That's awesome. Well, yeah, my comment was much less exciting than that, so never mind. But I was going to be like, I guess that if you guys had decided to pick Raphael as the archangel instead of Zedkiel in Pace, that would have been kind of perfect. Like for the blind. There you go. Yeah.
Quick, Reuben, plug Pace.
Well, the Pace finale has just happened, but we will talk about that when we do all our plugs at the end, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys should still listen to all of it, okay? I'm still partway through the last episode, but
it's real good.
It's real good. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Do it. Yeah. No, thank you guys, because
Oh, it's all Reuben. Reuben did the DMing, the editing. It's definitely his.
Well, thank you, Reuben. Fantastic job.
That's not all mine. Don't listen to Elliot. It's about the players. So
Elliot, that American accent is just
the highlight of the entire thing.
It's amazing. I love it.
I'm terrified to like listen to episode 1 and episode 14 next to each other and see how much it probably changed.
Yeah.
Because there's absolutely no way it was remotely consistent.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, it was gradual enough. I feel like I didn't notice a big change at least. So, yeah, it was real good. I liked it.
Well,
I do
speaking
wish-
of
go
real good, Verona.
This is, wow. What a
Oh, man.
good segue that was.
That is such a good segue.
So yeah, this 10.4 was my favorite chapter of Pale so far. Which really
Yes.
like surprises me because like what happened? Like, I mean, obviously like hanging out with Tash on the beach is like so good. And then like she has like a counselor session and then she like
Mhm.
eavesdrops. Like it's like wasn't a very like plot heavy or action heavy chapter at all. But I don't know, I just like Verona has snuck up on me as like someone I didn't expect to like really, really, really love. And I just love her so much. And Tash. And the mom, it was like, oh wait, her mom's not an asshole. Like this is so exciting.
Yeah. Like maybe Brett was wrong or was not being totally honest about everything.
Surprise.
Yeah. Shocker.
Yeah, shocker.
Yeah, you're right, because the sort of like 2-sentence summary of this chapter is really she has an interview with CPS and then drives home and finds Miss. It doesn't sound like a top tier chapter, but it really is.
It's so good. Yeah, like just the tension and everything, just getting to see her talk with like CPS and just really communicating how difficult it was for her to try to get the right things across and just seeing all her stress when it's like everything she was trying to say, he wasn't really getting. He kept taking notes at the wrong parts. You know, she wasn't able to emphasize what she really wanted to emphasize, and it was, it kind of felt stressful to read because it's like, come on, like, because you really thought that. I mean, especially at the end, like kind of at the end of their talk there when, or kind of the end of their talk when he was like, okay, well, can probably just go back to your dad's place and he'll take anger management and stuff like that. It's like, no, that's not what she needs. But I feel like the two main things, I mean, like obviously her mom's like stepped up. Obviously she's got a lot of work to do as a mom. I mean, you could tell it's hard because you could tell she really, really cares about Verona. But I feel like she's made a mistake of trying to treat Verona like one of her adult friends in terms of like, oh, like, well, if my friend says she wants this, then I guess I have to believe her. And so I'm going to do what she says. And it, because she was saying like things like, oh, well, you were kind of distant and like, you know, I didn't think you really wanted, I don't remember if I think this was on the drive home they were talking about this. Maybe it's in the very beginning of the next chapter. So I'm sorry if I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. But basically her mom was saying like, oh, like, you know, I could see you're kind of distant. Didn't seem like you wanted me to be there. So I decided to let you guys just like, you know, let you stay with your dad and kind of be on your, you know, I didn't think you wanted me there. And it's like, no, you got to fight for your kid. Like she needs you. You need to fight for her. And like, no, you're trying to do, you know, give her autonomy and all that. Like, but she is a child and she doesn't, you know, she's going to feel hurt from all these different things. She needs both her parents, especially if you care about her. Like you need to fight for her. So I feel like that's her main mistake she's made, like trying to do what she wants, but misinterpreting. It's like, yeah, it's so like, because Verona is really similar to her mom. Like you have like her mom who is not great with emotions, trying to do what her daughter wants by reading her daughter's emotions. And her daughter's really good at hiding them. And so that just doesn't work. So that was pretty frustrating. But she did step up in terms of being like, hey, like she can't go back to that house. Like you need to we need to do something else to figure that out. Which was really, really nice to see that she wasn't just being passive.
But then also like the recognizing like, oh, she should go to Jasmine's. Like it's, you know, like my daughter wants this and I'm going to like make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I suppose that's the one thing, right? Is she does actually listen to Verona. Like it's just as you were saying, Jenny, like she doesn't necessarily push past that or always read between the lines. It's, so like when Verona finally speaks up and says this stuff, jumping ahead, Sylvia like obviously has her back, but
spoilers.
But like she hasn't yet demonstrated that ability to like preemptively or ask about this stuff. That's the bit that's been missing, is her going up to Verona and being like, "Hey, how are you doing?"
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I think she also, like, I think it was really insightful, Jem, when you said she was treating her like she's one of her adult friends. And I think that, like, Sylvia really likes her independence and likes being alone. And I think she's kind of, like, projected a lot of that onto Verona, because Verona also, like, really wants to be able to do her own thing and make her own choices. But I think she kind of, like, has projected a little bit of that onto Verona, combined with, like, it seems like she's really good at making friends and making, like, Sylvia's really good at making friends and making people feel like comfortable, but I can't imagine her having like several like really close friends. Like the way she like interacts with Jasmine, it's like, oh, Jasmine is like a person who could make, you know, a couple of really, really close friends, like Aunt Heather, and Sylvia feeling awkward about that. I honestly can't remember what arc that is, so my bad if
I think it's like 11.1 or 2, but our episode on that is already out, so I think it's a bit harder for us to pretend that the future chapters don't exist when we're this far behind.
I know.
Yeah, but just
Sorry,
like
guys,
the idea of a bunch of dinner parties with like a bunch of different people sounds like very fun and cosmopolitan, but also kind of superficial, like emotionally, and somewhat exhausting. Like I can imagine why Verona's like checking out, because she's kind of like, I don't have the energy to be really involved in like the microbiology this person studies for the next 2 hours. Like, I'm gonna go.
Like, what?
I like that framing of Verona's mum being someone who has like lots of friends, but not very many like close ones. Like she's the sort of person who I imagine would always come for a night out, but when you need help moving furniture, you're not hearing from her.
Yeah, I could see that.
And to Jenny's point before, like something that strikes me as really interesting, because you were talking about how like one of the big mistakes Verona's mom has made is that she was giving her too much space and just sort of like, I guess, listening to what Verona was saying and not like fighting for her kid. But there's an interesting counter example to like that's something you can take too far, because like Brett is the opposite.
For sure.
He is like this is the sort of thing that would terrify me about becoming a parent, is like knowing how to walk that line must be the trickiest thing, because you've got to let your kid grow into their own person while also trying to help them like not make mistakes like that. Yeah, and like Brett and Sylvia have just failed on opposite sides of that spectrum.
Definitely. Yeah, no, you're totally right. Like you don't want to go too far one way or the other there. Just like it's my son's a little bit too young for me to have had to deal with all this stuff yet. So but yeah, it seems like I don't know, because I guess the main thing is like they really should communicate. Just like you know, I think Malia, I think you mentioned this or like, but basically like or it might have been one of you. Someone mentioned it. I'm sorry. Like just stop and be like, "Hey, like how are you doing? Like talk to me." Like you don't like it doesn't seem like you want to come with me, or like it doesn't seem like you want I don't know, you want me here. Well, maybe not the best way to say it, but kind of just like talk and be like, "Hey, like I want you to know, even though I'm leaving, I still love you. Like I'm not trying to abandon you. Like it's just you, between you and your dad. I still love you just as much, and I still want you with me." Because I feel like I don't know. It just you could tell. I mean, if someone feels like they're getting abandoned by like a parent or someone, it's not always the instinct to try to rush after them. Sometimes it's like you got to put a shield up to protect yourself and push them away, because then you feel like, okay, well, that way I'm pushing them away. They're not just pushing me away. Like I'm rejecting them as well. You know,
Well, especially like this applies to all kids, but like especially Verona. Don't just assume you can intuit how they're feeling and what they're thinking, because particularly with Verona, like no one fucking knows. Like especially Verona. So like you need to ask.
Yes, exactly. I mean, probably a lot worse now than it used to be. But,
that's true.
But I guess another thing I just wanted to touch on. I'm really, really glad that the CPS guy opened that drawing app, because obviously, like, Verona's mom really fought for her, got her to basically stay with Jasmine. However, I think that drawing app really kind of that drawing at the end, that CPS worker, I mean, after he saw that, then he was like, oh, I'm going to add on therapy, and I'm going to add on all these extra things that she obviously, I mean, it was really hard for her to get across just by talking, but he must have seen a lot of pain in that drawing there, that maybe was hard to get across just by talking. So I was really relieved about that, because I was like, man, like, yeah, just, I don't know, an anger management class and like a checkup or like a couple checkups within 6 months ain't gonna cut it, you know. But
yeah, I don't think anybody was under the illusion that was actually gonna help. Like, I'm sure everyone who read that was like, this is nothing.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's trying to put like a Band-Aid on, like, I don't know, a gaping bleeding wound, you know. It's
somebody
not gonna...
has their leg chopped off and it's like, here, take this Band-Aid.
Exactly. Like, here you go, it's gonna be fine. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this was a great chapter. I really really loved it. Let me see here, and then okay, well, I'm gonna let other people talk a little bit, and then I do have something to say about Verona's mom that apparently some people thought I kind of I don't know, cut off too quick last episode in terms of the practitioner stuff. So all right,
that's right. Yeah, that was the big cliffhanger we ended on.
That's right. That was not on purpose. But yes, anything else to say about Verona or Tashlet or
yeah. Well, so I know this, like, you probably shouldn't commit for life to someone at 13 unless part of them is literally a part of yourself. And they're gonna die if you don't. But like, I really want Tashlet and Verona to become familiars. I do, or like Tashlet to be her familiar. I think that, like, it's been pointed out a lot that Tashlet isn't good at communicating her feelings, and so like maybe there's a world where both of them could help each other, like, be more introspective and to be more honest with other people. Or there's a universe where like they don't work and it's really bad. But it just seems like they're so good together. And I love it. So
yes, the urge to familiarship is very hard to find.
Yeah, it's a weird vibe, but it is quite fun. So I'm just letting myself get into it.
Yeah, just don't think about it too much and just go with it.
Just enjoy the ride. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
They are both wonderful characters. So
yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world, but you're probably right. Maybe 13 is a little young for that, but you know, I mean, they're totally besties, so it's fine.
Thinking about it, I mean, like Avery and Verona were like not actually joking and like fighting over Alpi for the first, like, you know, half of this book, and like that wouldn't have been. I mean, it could have been fine for either of them, but it wouldn't have been like great and wonderful. You know, like there's like a reason why you shouldn't rush into like literal lifelong commitments. So like haphazardly, which is why I'm kind of like, okay, like if they, are friends for like 5 years or whatever, that's cool. I think one of the things that really pushes me to want it to happen is like because of all of the benefits it gives the other. Like so a lot
True.
of like stabilization and a relief from a lot of the like shitty things they experience in their lives. I imagine that like Tashlet would be able to communicate more easily with other people. And maybe like like it seems like she doesn't want to keep transforming.
Yeah.
And so that would be cool if that could also be put on pause. And then like Verona's the one who hasn't done a big ritual yet, and so that would help balance things out maybe. But yeah, it's just like I was kind of like, oh, Avery, this is a big decision. Like, are you sure you want to do this so quickly? But really it's just like, oh, Snowdrop's gonna die. Like, you gotta make a choice. And so there seems to be this, like with Lucy and John, it was like, oh, well, like they have a lot of time to think about this maybe. But with some of the others, it's, I don't know.
Yeah, Tashlet, I feel like a little iffy on how much time she has. I mean, like, she's going to stay alive, but she is changing, right? I do have to say, though, I know that I totally agree with you with Alpi. That would have been a terrible choice. I can't help but feel really sorry for Alpi, though, just because first she had like 2 practitioners like kind of fighting over her, and she like audibly like said, yeah, I'd love to be a familiar because it'd be nice to have a break from having to do this shit all the time. And now they both like are potentially have other people that
they've both moved on.
Yeah, they both moved on, and she's still in her literal nightmare world, you know?
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. I don't think she would have been like a terrible choice for either of them. I just think that, you know, Snowdrop makes a lot of sense for Avery, and that Tashlet and Verona are just like a better fit. But yeah,
I
it is
totally
a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, but I just do feel like, you know, that's kind of a bummer for her.
She'll have to try and chase after Lucy now, because Lucy has no one.
I know, right?
I don't think
that
Lucy
would be a
could
twist.
deal with Alpi's like neutrality or whatever supposed. Yeah,
that's true. I don't think that would work too well. No. Who knows? Maybe if Melissa awakens, there you go. There you go. Alpi, you still got a chance. No, that's true. Be like, I don't know if I want this anymore.
I have to go work.
Actually,
is this worth the break?
Well, poor everyone around them. Both of them do is whinge. It'd just be like they'd feed off each other. They'd turn into a super brat.
Yeah. Oh, that would. You know what? Yeah, I take it back. Don't do it. Don't get any ideas from this. You know, just don't do it. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so do you want to hit us with this juicy?
Okay.
Theory.
This is not watertight. Okay. I very easily may have like mislooked some things. This is not like a real big thing. Okay. I just want to say that. But I don't know. When I was reading Verona's part here specifically, I felt like the part where they were going and driving home and the car kept dying. If Verona's mom was a practitioner, you'd think that this would have happened to her before. Like the car dying and having to meet like the lords or whatever. Other people. At the very least, she'd probably be like, yeah, like this car always does this. Or I don't know. Like she wouldn't, I just don't see her quite reacting this way.
That's
and
an
then
annoyingly good point.
I'm also now imagining this like hilariously sitcom-y situation where like the car breaks down and Verona and her mum are both like,
oh fuck.
Oh, I'm just gonna go stretch my legs over here.
And then they both like go to different sides of the gas stop that they're at, and there's like another on each one who's like just meeting with them. And they're both like peeking around the corner to make sure the other can't see.
Yeah. Not to mention, I feel like if you're a practitioner, wouldn't you notice your 13-year-old going off and maybe talking with another? Like, wouldn't you maybe notice some of that stuff going on around you?
Maybe, but I think we've seen that Verona's mum had kind of consistently thought of her as a child and probably doesn't have her in the box of like, this is an adult who could be a capable practitioner, you know?
True, but not even that, but I just mean, wouldn't you notice others around? Right. And then just be like, like maybe my why the heck is my kid getting close to this other? I need to do something to kind of distract her or do something, right?
I would question her abilities as a practitioner if at this point she hasn't noticed that Verona is too.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I don't fully understand how people's sight works, but I feel like I've noticed that Verona doesn't tend to look at people with the sight very much and like think about them. Like I think she does with Lucy sometimes. But like Lucy is constantly seeing like knives in people representing like, you know, the pain and trauma that they've experienced. And even Avery, I can feel like she like sometimes looks for connections and sometimes sees handprints. But I've never like I don't want to know, but I really want to know what Brett looks like in the sight / like would Sylvia, if she's a practitioner, show some mark of it. I think that could be interesting, but there could just be like a weird thing where just neither of them have looked at each other with the sight and therefore have not
That'd be hilarious.
figured this out. But yeah, does Verona see like blobby saran monsters on people?
Ugh,
She has the weirdest sight.
gross. She has really weird sight. I mean, good for her, I guess. She rocks it, but man, that would freak me out.
It's definitely the one I understand the least. Like, as you said,
Yeah.
with Lucy's, it's like, you know, the knives are the sort of like emotions associated with the place. And with Avery, it's like the connections between things. And I can sort of conceptualize that. Whereas, like, whenever Wildbow presents us with a new piece of meat wrapped in something, I'm like, what does this mean?
Yeah, that's a weird one. But, yeah, I don't understand that. But
I just love how she talks to them.
I know.
Yeah.
They're like her buddies.
It's so
Her
good.
gross
Well,
meat
the same when
buddies.
she met Tashlit. Like, her ability to just strike up a conversation with whatever is presented to her is just so, like,
It's just great.
delightful.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. But yeah, anyway, the car thing, that just really, like at the very, this one section, after she goes and talks to some other dude, she goes back and is like, all right, like try to start up the car, Mom. And Mom's like, I haven't figured out what's wrong, which I feel like if she was a practitioner, she would know exactly what's wrong. But I mean, again, this is not watertight.
Yeah.
She hasn't figured out what's wrong because she just hasn't looked with the site with Verona, and she's like, all right, me dealing with that Lord took a second and a half. Why hasn't it worked yet?
Yeah,
Dun,
but
dun,
I'd still
dun.
say, why did she react like that when they got there? You know, and Verona's like, oh, we're going to run to a problem when we get to the next area. And she's, I don't know. It's like, I don't know.
Well, she doesn't want Verona to know that she's a practitioner.
But Verona...
Because then Verona will know that she killed the Carmine Beast.
That makes sense. I like that.
Yeah,
I knew you'd like that, Reuben.
There you go. No, but like in her eyes, Verona would have no reason to know what a practitioner even is. So why would she be worried about that?
Oh no, I'm saying I think she's figured out Verona's a practitioner.
Oh, got it.
She's intentionally keeping it a secret. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's got to be it, guys.
Maybe this explains why Verona's mum is trying to take a more active role in her life as well. Now she knows she's a practitioner. She's like, oh, I've got to, really I better pay attention to her again.
No, I refuse. I refuse to believe that. That's so fucked. No. Oh, man. Okay. Jeez.
And then we get to our last interlude, the exciting one. Well, actually, they're all exciting, but like plot-wise, one of the most exciting ones. We finally got the origin story of Edith and friends.
Yeah. Holy crap. Definitely puts things into perspective a bit more, but she still totally sucks though. Like completely. But man, it's like I think I saw a comment somewhere where it says like, you know, I can't sympathize with her, but I wish I can't, I don't know who said this, but basically calling her pitiable. Like she's very pitiable, but she's not easy to sympathize with. And I'm like, yeah, that pretty much hits the nail on the head for me. Because I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's you get it, but also no, don't do this. Like
like really?
You had plenty of opportunities on this path you were walking down to be like, hey, maybe I should not.
Like, maybe I shouldn't be a complete piece of shit. But I guess it's hard sometimes to turn away from that path. But yeah, I'm just like started by setting people's like everything on fire, just like setting cars and a bunch of stuff on fire. Which granted that like Sydney, that kid needed like heavy doses of therapy, just like most people in the story. But like lots of therapy.
Although interestingly, I got the vibe from that chapter that like the Sydney echo that we're seeing is like the discarded pyromania. Like there was a bit of a moment or revelation or something for Sydney when she like lit that car on fire, and it sort of allowed her to outgrow it. So it's kind of like I don't know if Sydney
like
needs
that.
it so much anymore, but it's like the problem is now we're dealing with the after or the other parts of the repercussions of that part of her.
I'd probably still argue she needs therapy, but yeah, that's a good point.
Or
I didn't think about it
maybe
like
she
that, but-
needed therapy. She should have got therapy so we don't have this echo walking around.
True. I'd still say she still needs it.
Well, I think it was interesting how like we get a really, really deep dive into Sydney, and we get like that dive into her later when she's like, standing near the edge of the abyss with like those practitioners and and how she like just doesn't seem to care about what happens as long as she gets the lantern. But like she's described very early on as being like a composite of like candlelight vigils and like all of these like heartbreaking but also heartwarming images. And we do not get a deep dive into any of those. Like all of the Edith moments are very like very self-centered, very about her and what she wants, and like not a lot of the like possibly good spirits or like I don't know. I feel weird judging like Sydney's echo that way. Because like just saying like, oh, that's a bad spirit, it feels kind of shitty. But just like a lot of the like loving and compassionate ones aren't highlighted at all in this chapter.
Yeah, it kind of seems like, I mean, maybe that's the ones, I mean, the ones she's emphasizing are the ones that are being emphasized the most in this chapter. Like she's kind of pushing off the other ones or yeah.
Yeah, she seems to have some control over what parts of herself she leans into and emphasizes. So it's hard not to read some of it as a bit of a choice to, lean more into Sydney than the candlelight vigil or whatever. I suppose you could argue that if there is an inherently selfish aspect to Sydney, then that part is not necessarily going to choose to let itself go as well. I don't know, but yeah, like that was certainly the vibe I got. Like she acted like, oh, this is just who I am or whatever. But then in other situations, like when she was in that thing and Matt was talking to her, she would lean into certain parts of herself to give off certain emotions. So I felt a bit flat at times.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Speaking of her thing with Matthew, I found it really fascinating. Like Wildbow really surprised me in a good way, because I've been kind of suspicious of Matthew for a long time. I think Avery being like, in her very first, or I think it was her first chapter, not her second, but she was just kind of like, yeah, it's weird when a man talks for his wife so much, and like this gives me bad vibes. And then it was always like he was always like pulling up to the house, and it was like, what's that about? Like I just felt kind of like I don't fully trust this man. And it would have been like, I mean, I like that he subverts it and shows how like good of a person Matthew is, where like he recognizes that like he found this spirit and like helped her like refine herself, quote unquote, or like take on a more like permanent form. And so then when she like expresses this emotion, he's like, no, like I can't, like that's wrong. And I really like that there wasn't like, and it was obviously like he wasn't like, ew, gross, go away. Like it wasn't like, oh no, I don't at all like you even a little bit, but it was like, oh no, like this is not okay for me to do to you, because you're, like I can't like make my mail order creepy wife or whatever. Like that's weird.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like in Sig's chapter when she like murders the clock lady, Edith is like, "You're taking me away from a night with my husband," and I was like, "That's weird. Like, do you even like him? Like, what's even going on? Like, are you just like using him? Like, is he just like, did he just make you and now you're in this like weird creepy relationship? Like, what's even happening?"
Yeah.
And it popped into my mind when I was reading this chapter because it was like, oh my god, like this girl didn't have a chance. Like, she's gonna fucking like eviscerate you, like just for like taking her away from Matthew for a night. You know, it just scary lady.
It kind of makes me wonder, and I might be reading too much into that, but like, is we're saying Edith she kind of, or Girl by Candlelight, she kind of picks different parts of herself, right, to emphasize more, to show more. Kind of makes, because like some of these parts, like I'm like, how could Matthew really like that, but like what parts is she showing to Matthew all the time? Like, is she being manipulative in a way, like only showing him the parts that like she thinks he's gonna want to see, or is he really like, oh, I see all of you, and even your kind of awful parts are totally good? I don't know. I could see her kind of tweaking stuff so that he sees the really favorable stuff.
I wonder if we're maybe exaggerating how much she does this, like, because there is a sort of, I mean, I guess I'm assuming that there's a probability that there's like a default mixture of Edith and all the aspects of the Girl by Candlelight, which is just sort of the natural balance of her, and she can lean into certain parts when she wants stuff to happen. But like,
okay,
I guess because I'm just thinking about like people,
that
like
makes
that's
sense.
how people work to an extent. Like you can,
I guess so.
like lean on certain parts of yourself to kind of, like if you're nervous or whatever, like you to a much lesser extent. But I suppose, like, I wonder if there is just a core default neutral Edith personality that is maybe what she's with Matthew most of the time.
That's probably true. I'm probably just being biased because
you don't like her.
I don't like her. So that's probably, I'm probably being a little unfair there. But
yeah, well, it's because it's interesting thinking back to like earlier chapters when she's helping the kind of tears draw runes and like like all this stuff, and she like, especially rereading those things now, she does feel a little bit standoffish and stuff, but like they all felt awkward and things at the time. But there's a lot of chapters where they're just like, getting barbecue at their house, or and it just like they kind of describe Matthew and Edith as being like they feel like parental figures in a way sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't think that Edith is like, I think she's very selfish and very, very afraid, but I don't think that she's just like straight up horrible, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. No. I know. I mean, it's just, yeah.
I mean, she's obviously at least a little bit horrible.
She's definitely a bit horrible, but yeah, no, I mean, that's true. She definitely like, I mean, she was made of a bunch of different parts, and like, I mean, I understand. I get it. If most people are sympathetic to her, I'm very biased because I don't like her. But
yeah.
Well, I mean, to compare it to someone like Liz was almost the opposite, right? Like Liz was born into this really confrontational, violent situation, did a bunch of bad stuff, but then the second she got out, she was kind of like, I don't want to be this, I want to find myself, blah blah. I mean, actually now she's on Team Edith, so maybe not so much, but like Edith had Matt, and like he was helping her, and he was doing everything for her, and she just turned that on him in the worst way. Like,
the worst way.
Like when she had the freedom to sort of make her own choices and do what she wanted, it seems like she picked the worst one.
Right. And she couldn't accept like Matthew having the freedom to make his own choice in that way.
Yeah.
Like she couldn't, like, I mean, I can imagine it'd be very, very heartbreaking to be like, no, I promise, like, I'm not manipulated, I'm not like constructed, like, I love you, and it's okay, and like I want to be with you, and then to have the person be like, no, because you're a spirit and I helped whatever refine you. But I wish that she had more faith in herself and her
Mhm.
yeah, and in Matthew that like maybe, eventually he would come around and realize that they could have a relationship. I don't know. It's hard. I mean, nothing she did it was at all excusable. Injecting your spouse with like
evil juice.
yeah is
It's
not
pretty
okay.
horrible. Yeah. There's no world where that's okay.
No.
No. I'm just saying like in that hospital bed I can understand like that must have felt very like really awful.
Mhm.
But obviously
I mean,
none of the decisions she makes after words.
yeah,
Exactly.
I know
yeah.
I know what you're saying, but was their love really compatible, like naturally? Anyway, I don't know. I just kind of feel like
Well, no,
when she was
right?
Yeah.
Because Matthew clearly wasn't interested in her in that way until
Well,
she
yeah,
kind of
but
trapped him into being there for a long time.
yes,
I
but
don't know
not
that that's
just that.
true.
Well, okay, not just that, but just the way she described love to Charles. Like she
Oh, yeah,
wanted
fair.
to possess him. Essentially, she's like, he has all these empty spots and I want to fill them up. That's great. I don't know. She's just like, I want to be under his skin. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what you guys like tell your partners. But it's not
Yeah,
usually.
that's what I say to my girlfriend all the time.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I could try that with my husband. I don't
Okay, so
think it would
that's
go
what
over
I'm doing
well,
wrong.
but that's what you're doing wrong. Yeah, like
So,
Yeah.
any other relationship tips, gang?
Welcome to the Edith James School of flirting. Yeah.
oh my gosh. Ugh.
Okay, I'll
There you
grab
go.
some
Another epilogue.
syringes.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, just yeah, it kind of reminds you of like I mean, obviously in a very different way, but like I feel like I had a fun fact kind of about this that this kind of reminds me of it. It's kind of like those wives who would like slowly be like poisoning their husbands over time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like the one I'm obviously like Edith's not trying to kill him, but these other women like they were trying to get something out of it. Like they had really like they couldn't divorce or they had like really abusive relationships or whatever, so that like they thought their only option was to basically murder their husband. So I don't know. It's something about that. It kind of just reminds me of like it seems similar somehow to me. Like,
yeah, although it's to trap him with her. It's like a fun inversion of that. The same way,
yeah,
as you touched on earlier, like there was the inversion of everyone just sort of assumed that Matt was probably the manipulator in that couple, and it turns out not at all.
Nope. Yeah, not at all.
Oh,
That was a good twist. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. Although I am going to say, right before this chapter came out, and Malia can tell you because I was complaining to her about it, I came up with a theory, and I was like, what if everyone thinks Matthew is the one who's being manipulative? What if Edith is somehow like doing something? And then I was like, well, crap. All right, that's too late.
Yeah.
It's way
You
too
really
late
got to
for-
commit to it on a
gotta-
podcast before it counts.
I know. I literally thought of it like the morning before, like the morning like that I read this chapter, and so it was a little too late anyway. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Even if no one believes me, I know it's true in my heart. So, anyway, yeah, I'm kind of glad that they're not trying to have a. Well, I mean, I know they want to have a kid, but that would be. I don't know how that'd work. That'd be weird. Because yeah, Malia was saying, or she like to me, earlier, like something about her maybe possessing the baby on accident. I think they might have mentioned something about that. How creepy would that be? Like if like the girl by candlelight got sucked out of Edith and went into this like baby.
Yeah, that was like one of the concerns they laid out in one of the early chapters when they were like interviewing Matthew and Edith or whatever, was that like she would somehow inadvertently get absorbed into the baby. Like either the baby would be like doom juice and would like murder her from the inside, or that she'd get like sucked into the baby, and when like the baby was born, Edith James would like go back to being like catatonic / die because GBC would have left, and it was just like, all right, this is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe they should hold off on that. So, but
No, I think if they had a child, that would really fix the problems in their relationship.
A tale as old as time.
Oh man, what a terrible idea. I know people do that a lot. Anyone listening out there who's thinking about having a kid to fix your relationship, that is a terrible, terrible idea. I love my son, but holy crap, there's nothing about that like made like if anything, it's a bit of a relationship test because it is not easy.
Yeah, get a couple of dogs instead.
Yeah, get some dogs. Get a goldfish. I mean, treat that goldfish nice. Don't just put it in a bowl. Don't put it in a bowl. That's like one of the things I've learned from my husband, but he's marine biology. Don't put the goldfish in a bowl. Get an actual tank. Yeah, the more you know. You're welcome.
I didn't know that actually. What's the difference?
I think the bowls aren't enough for her.
Yeah, I think for one, it's not enough room. It's usually not enough oxygenation because they don't get like that filter. Also, just like the curved edges of the bowl, like kind of messes with their perception as well. So it's not good at them. I think it makes them more likely to like bump into the sides and all that. Instead, like a relatively good sized tank. For like if your fish tank looks like it's kind of crowded at all, that's kind of messed up, like because those fish have no room. Have you guys ever watched Tanked, that show?
No.
Where that's fine. You're not really missing out on that much, but it's basically this show.
Do they have people? Is it a show where they have people live in a fish tank? That's what it sounds like. What is it?
Does. That's what it sounds like. No, it's this show about like these guys. I think that run like an aquarium business thing out of Las Vegas. It's always Las Vegas, I feel like, where they build these custom aquariums that like look really cool. Like it might look like like an electric guitar, or it might look like a piano, or it might look, I don't know.
Okay, that does sound kind of interesting. I'd probably watch an episode or two of that. So
I've watched them before. The bad thing about it is that they don't tend to think about like the long term in terms of like the animals living inside, and they always tend to put a bunch of really cool looking animals in there that aren't, for one, supposed to live together. And for another, like they overcrowd the tanks. So a lot of times a lot of them end up dying or getting eaten by the other, some of the other predators in the tank. And it's just kind of cruel. Which I didn't know that until, again, my husband educated. Yeah, Vitalis ruining fun with like ethics, you know?
Well, as another problem thing you can do with fish that my sisters recently ran into. So they bought these fish, but they got, I can't remember what the species name or anything was, but they're basically like see-through, like really hard to see fish.
Okay.
So they've set up this whole tank, and then they put a bunch of fish in it. You can't see.
You can't see them.
Why? Why don't I understand?
They didn't think of it. They got home and they put the fish in, and they sort of looked at their tank and they're like, "Oh, we fucked up." Like,
that's hilarious.
Like,
it's like a game of spot the fish. It's like, like, where's Waldo at home?
Like, I mean, I'm sure they're doing fine, I guess. Like,
well, for different reasons, the fish are no longer with us. But
I'm sorry.
They recently
That's
got
very
cats.
sad. And the cat could see them? That's kind of impressive. I mean,
no,
I shouldn't
the
say
cat
that,
was
but...
trying to get at the fish, and nobody knows how it happened because nobody was there. But the cat got sick and vomited into the fish tank.
Oh no! Yeah, that's a good way to mess up the pH.
Yes. So the fish did not make it.
Oh,
that is not what I would have guessed.
Cat.
Yeah,
right?
Wow. Yeah, I was not expecting that. I was expecting it to like knock the tank over or like.
Yeah, that's what when they told me, they're like, "Oh, the fish have died," and I was like, "Oh, what did Chadwick do?" And it was like, "Well, we think he threw up," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Like straight up vomited.
Oh.
Wow. All right. That's not a great way to go. You know, you don't want to really die and vomit.
It sounds like something from like one of these stories, though.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Something in the Warrens, yeah.
Oh, geez. Well, I'm sorry for their loss.
Yeah,
of the fish. That's kind of sad, but
yeah.
All right.
So, Edith,
Yes.
any more on our favorite fire spirit?
I'm gonna say no for me.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's move on to our new dynamic duo, Miss and
I
Crooked
know.
Rook.
Woohoo! Oh my gosh, I was so wrong about Crooked Rook. I'm so glad I was wrong. I'm so happy. I totally thought she was like had some evil like alternative motive, and dang, so stinking wrong. And I've never been like happier to be wrong in my life. I mean, that's probably not true, but but you know, I'm really happy I was wrong.
No, this is one of those situations where Wildbow's played us like a fiddle, and I'm like, I love it. Like,
Mhm.
I'm glad you tricked me. This is much better.
Yeah, you
It's-
sneaky dude.
Yeah, it's also fun like being part of the community for this story for this, because I don't know that I would have really built it up quite as much in my head, but there were so many conversations about like, oh, I bet Miss and Crooked Rook would like hate each other, and like, oh, I like she's totally thinks these things about them and is totally underestimating them, and blah 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 blah. And so this like whole narrative of Crooked Rook built up in my mind, mostly based on like other people's comments. And then it was just like, haha, lol. Like it felt like Ashton Kutcher was going to come out or something and be like, haha, you've been punked. Like you're and it was just delightful because it's nice that it's like, I don't think that they agree on everything, but they still like have like the same goals or like close enough. And it seems like they care about each other, and just like her taking off her mask to hold it in front of Miss was like so sweet and thoughtful.
That was very sweet.
Yeah.
And it was just like this arc, we got like a lot of really amazing character moments, but then also a lot of like plot confirmation or whatever. Like it was like bam, Edith, and then like bam, Crooked Rook, and it was just like, woo, I'm ready.
I know. Yes. Yeah. I was so
I
happy to see
I can't wait
this.
to see more of how they work together, because I think you're right. Like, I think it was in our last reflecting episode, like when we had Jay on, Jay sort of was thinking that they might have a bit of a like Magneto and Professor X thing going, where they're old friends who had very different values on how to do the fight. And I really liked that idea, and it seems they're much more friendly than those two were, at least in the movies I've seen. But I do still think there could be some differences in exactly how they want things to play out. So it'd be super fascinating to see, where Crooked Rook and Miss are at the end of the story.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm kind of sad for Miss that she can't get back into Kennett.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, poor Montague. Like, what would he think? Like, he doesn't know that he's being used as a anti-Miss, security system. But
I feel relatively confident that will be resolved well. But it is sort of sad because I feel like Montague likes to integrate himself into systems, but doesn't necessarily need to do that with the perimeter all that often. I'm not sure if it like really drains him or whatever, but I feel like they would get along. Like I feel like he would really like Miss.
Yeah, as with most things, I get the impression that Edith is the problem here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah. I'm excited for the live stream when you invite the Pale Audio book guys back on, so the one who just like hates Edith can like rub it in all of our faces.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. He's gonna get so smug, isn't he?
You're like, I knew it. That's true.
That'll just have to be that segment. It'll just be an hour. I told you so from Tay.
So good. That's funny.
So I think the only part of the arc now that we haven't sort of dived into chronologically,
oh my
as
gosh,
we all remember we're going, is 14.12.
That's right. We dive into the future and
another dream.
Another dream. Yeah. I read this a couple days after it came out, like on April Fool's Day, so it didn't really like sink in that it came out on April Fool's Day. This really just screwed with my head because think Leah was like, "Hey, did you read the new chapter yet?" And I was like, "Oh, not yet. Is it good?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's fine." And I was just like texting her while I was reading it, like, "What the fuck is happening? Like, what? This doesn't make any sense." Yeah, so I was too busy trying to figure out what was going on. I did not make the Marvel connection the first time I read it because it just didn't click that it was an April Fool's thing. I know it's really obvious, but don't judge me.
Yeah, I think Reuben and I brought this up in our episode on it. Neither of us spotted it the first time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I read it and then started reading the comments, and I was like, "Oh, I'm an idiot! Like that is." And then you reread it, and like Wildbow's
like,
going
oh,
out of
yeah.
his way to be like,
I mean, it's not
the Black
subtle,
Widow,
yeah.
and like
It's so
like,
good.
he was basically yelling at me, and I just didn't get it.
I mean, I don't know. I just I was like, this is a crazy time skip chapter. Like, what the heck? Like, what happened? Oh man, so good.
The timing of April Fool's Day things can be quite important to how they are received.
Yeah, it sure can. It sure can. Got to be careful with those April Fool's jokes.
We should have our mom tell the best and worst April Fool's Day joke she ever pulled on someone in an episode.
That's good. I mean,
she sent someone into premature labor.
Yeah. Whoops.
What?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't on purpose.
But it's not on purpose. It was sort of Dad's fault.
I feel like we kind of have to tell what's happening. My mom, she's much better at telling stories than either of us, just because she's amazing at it. But basically, is my dad? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So Mom and Dad were on this like weird spree that year where like Easter had been in March. And so they had this whole thing where they were like, we ate all your Easter candy. Ha ha ha. April Fools. They were just like on this whole like weird like power trip.
A classic Fallon move.
That's right.
So Dad is a doctor and he had his own practice, and our mom worked for him as his biller. And so they had a nurse and a receptionist, like 2 employees. And they were like, oh, this will be hilarious. We're like gonna write these like official looking letters telling them that like their pay has been docked, and like, you know, like, oh, we really love you guys. You guys are so amazing. But like we haven't been making like as good of money or whatever. And so whatever, right? And then you know,
they were supposed to too Michael Scott for me.
Okay, but they were supposed to give them like the real
read the letter. And
like,
then like which had like within 2 minutes that had like a, you know, $100 bonus and a haha April Fool's thing.
Yes.
But Dad's office was always really hectic, and Mom came in and like dropped the letters off, and Dad was just like, oh, go, like, get out of here, blah, blah, blah. And so they read the letters and they're sitting with them for like hours, like trying not to show Dad that they've been like crying.
I know, it's so awful. And then they're like, oh crap, we didn't give you guys the real letters. Oh, here you go, you guys. And they were just like, thank you. And like still, you know, kind of
this is just a plot from The Office, I think.
I know, except it was real. It was real. And then
the nurse was 5 months pregnant at the time, and I think around then, and she went into like premature labor from like the stress. And so then she was like out of work. And Mom had to go and be the nurse in the office, which she hated. So it was like,
yeah,
and the baby is fine.
Yeah, baby is totally fine.
A well-adjusted young man. And
yeah, so they don't really do April Fool's jokes anymore.
Oh, and then every year, I don't know if they still do it, because this was like 15 years ago or something, if not a little bit more. But they would send both of them like flowers every April Fool's.
Just to be like, I'm so sorry that we caused you emotional trauma. Yeah. So
that's a pretty good story.
It's so good. Yeah, I'm sure our mom's gonna be really happy we shared that, but
well, she won't be able to listen to this podcast for a long time.
That's true. Yeah, she'll find out a lot later and be like, you guys are such jerks, you know.
You've got plenty of time to go and start new lives.
That's true. Well, I guess we live pretty far away anyway, unfortunately, but they're still back on Maui and we're in Texas, so oh well.
But my last 2 points for this chapter is one, it freaked me out in Elpie's chapter when she's like, oh, like Lucy's the only Kenneteer around kind of a thing. Like Lucy's the only one left. Because then I thought of like this chapter where Lucy's the only one left, and I just like freaked out. And I'm worried that other things from that chapter will continue cropping up, but we'll see. And then the other thing is like I still want a Z chapter. I'm hoping that like this didn't count in like a weird way. Just like I hope that like Sigs doesn't count for Melissa because I want one of those too.
Well, we did have 3.Z, didn't we? That was the Z chapter.
Did we?
I'm assuming that was a pun on the Z.
Yeah, because it
No,
was Zed.
like wasn't it literally from Zed's perspective? Have I just made this up in my head?
Was it? Did we just forget a
Let's
Z
all
chapter?
Google.
Oh no, you're right. You're right.
Did we
you're
just-
right.
What?
It was the chapter where they
Where they
find
fight
the hungry choir.
choir.
That was from Zed's perspective.
Oh.
Okay. Well,
In my
I thought
brain,
you were
that's-
just literally like 3.Z is a Z chapter. But like, oh my gosh, that doesn't count.
That's so funny.
I mean, that joke is there too, but
Yes, it's
Yeah.
a great joke, but
Weird. In my brain, that chapter's from Bree's perspective. I don't know why. I think it's just like
that
seeing her
happened to
walk
me as
through
well.
all the waves
Yeah.
is just so epic.
maybe
Yeah,
we need
okay.
a Bree chapter into where like we're convinced it's a Z chapter until like, the very end.
They've mind melted.
Yeah. It's the only way to make it even, you know. That's funny. I totally forgot about that, but whoops. Sorry, Zed. I don't think I realized that I guess most everyone else says Z instead of Z in the alphabet until the story. I don't think I realized that.
Mm-hmm.
Just to let everyone know.
That's like a really fun part of these Otherverse stories is learning little snippets of like Canadian culture just because they're
Yeah.
sort of slipped in here, like the word
It's pretty
took.
cool. And then like I still remember that one part. What's his name? Chase, like the real jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I still remember like when I think that was during the Z chapter that I just blanked out of my head for some reason. But
Oh, where he like dead names him.
yeah, or no, he did. Or not, that's not even the part I mean, but he was just like, "Hey Z," and he's like, "My name's Zed," and he's like, "I'm an American though," and I'm like, "Oh, you asshole!
Yeah,
You're such a dick."
like doing that achieves nothing but just antagonizing Zed.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what he was doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like Zed sounds like an actual name too, at least to me. Like we're Z. Like, I mean, sorry to anybody named Z out there. You have a valid name, but I just think Zed sounds a little bit more. I don't know. It makes sense to me, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I do like getting all these little snippets of Canadian Canadian culture and things that I'm like, oh, like I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Well, in Pact, this is not a spoiler, but they say something like, "Oh, it's like the GTA," and I was like, "What is that?" And I had to like Google it, and I was like, "Oh, Greater Toronto Area, okay." And like the Mounties and like different acronyms are really funny. They keep popping up, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay."
Yeah,
That's the
exactly. I
thing.
always loved like having to Google for some of these things. It'd be like in 10.4 when this guy was like, "I'm part of CAS." Like, do you know what that means? And I was like, "No, I don't. I'm gonna go Google it."
Yeah, it's just like, CPS, whatever. Which I don't know what y'all call it.
Do you guys call it CPS?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Reuben? Do you know
Yeah.
that?
Child Protective Services.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Weird.
Thought so.
Okay.
Makes sense. I mean, it does make sense.
Actually,
so.
now that I think of it, my sister has started doing some work with like child services, and I think she calls it something else, but I can't remember what it is. So I don't know.
This might be like one of those things where because that's the term in like all the US media,
Media.
and about 90% of our media
Mm.
comes from the US, it's just something we've like taken on. Like
Mhm.
like here in Australia, our emergency number is 000,
Hmm.
but
Mm.
911 actually forwards to 000 because so
Whoa.
Does
many
it
people,
really?
yeah, so many people will still dial 911 just because that's what we hear in like every movie
Wow.
and everything.
Right.
So the government basically just had to set up 911 to route to 000 because so many people weren't getting through.
That's great.
Dang.
There's like, it's kind of random but kind of related. Like, if you go on Reddit, sometimes they'll ask like, "Oh, like, what did you guys, I don't know, expect from, I don't know, what did you guys think America was like based on media and stuff like that? It's funny listening to some of those answers. Like, you guys never say goodbye when you hang up the phone. Or like, you guys are always like, your mom's always cooking this elaborate breakfast, and then you're just running out the door grabbing a piece of toast saying, sorry, Mom.
Classic.
I'm like, oh man, you would just get beat. I mean, maybe not, but your mom would be upset at least. So
I think like one of the moments I most distinctly remember kind of losing my mind when I was living in America was the first time I saw a school bus, because it was actually just a big yellow school bus.
Oh yeah.
And that like, I was like, holy
Wait,
shit, they're real.
what do y'all have? Wait, what do you guys have?
Just buses.
Yeah,
They're just normal
they just
buses.
look like buses. They
Like
look
city
like normal
buses?
Like
buses.
city,
Yeah.
like a city
Yeah.
bus, but
Yeah.
how do you know?
Where you
not-
like sit along the sides and stuff?
Yeah.
Wait, how do you
it's
know,
just a
like, it's just for
bus, But
kids?
instead of
Wait.
having like a route number on it, it says school on it or whatever.
Weird.
Weird. I mean, I guess that shouldn't be weird. It should just be normal. But yeah, no, that's kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
But interesting. Learn something new every day. Like, and that probably sounds ridiculous. Like, wow, like they use actual buses as the bus. That's amazing. Man, yeah. There's a lot of. I know. We've kind of like invaded the world with media. So, I guess sorry. I don't know. Or...
I mean, to be fair, we do make our own media.
I know.
There's a reason we still watch yours.
Hey, I mean, well, I don't know a lot of. Well, yeah, actually, I don't know if I've seen Australian media.
There's
Trying to
a
think.
few decent
I
ones.
think I've seen like, what is it that dessert show, like Zumbo's something?
Zumbo something.
Yeah, Zumbo's something.
What are you
And-
talking about?
I don't know.
What
Okay,
is this?
they make
Zumbo
insane
something
things.
something.
I need to Google this.
Yep,
Zumbo's
it's Zumbo's
just
just
desserts.
dessert.
Yes, and they are not just desserts. They are like insane
No, I've never
like,
heard of this.
creation things. Which I mean,
Oh,
if
whoa,
you like
these are
sugar,
crazy.
yeah,
Reuben,
Right?
surely you've
Zumbo.
seen the Adriano Zumbo things in like every bloody mall in Sydney.
You guys have that you can go eat at? What are you doing?
Yeah, there's like
Okay.
a Zumbo outlet in like every food court.
What? Are you can get one of those like insane things? I mean, maybe not that insane, but at a food court?
I mean,
Malia.
it's like the
We have
food
to
court
go.
version of it. You know, it's like
All right, we gotta go to Australia.
All right, I'm down.
Yeah, I can honestly say I've never heard of this show or, shop.
Well, you need to get on Netflix. So
Mm.
no, I mean, it's like one of those food cooking competitions, but they just like, they'll be like, oh, like you have to create like, I don't know, some kind of cake thing, or I don't know. I'm doing a great job at explaining this, but some kind of like intro contest thing. And then whichever two contestants kind of lose that, they have to do the Zumbo challenge, where they get this stupidly complicated dessert comes out that tastes like amazing and always is like floating on something or has smoke coming out, or I don't know. And it's like has like 50 layers, and like you all have to like line them up precisely and put like the little things all over. So that's what I think Australian desserts are all like now. But they have to make this like crazy complicated thing. I mean, I don't know. You should watch it, and just I want to know if that's what all of your desserts are like, because I'm really jealous. That's what I think.
I'm going to do our tourism industry a solid and say, yep, that's absolutely every day here.
Yeah, that's what it's like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's exactly what it's like.
That's why I've never seen this show, because to me it just looks like normal desserts.
Yeah, it's just like watching someone paint a wall, you know? Like,
Yeah, it's
do
like
this every
it's
day.
literally just desserts, guys. Like, I don't know why you're watching
Yeah.
this. It's not that. Yeah, Malia, if you haven't seen it, they like are insane. So
Cool.
yeah, and I feel like the contestants just seem delightful, probably because they're making sugary things.
Yeah, I'd
which
be
always
pretty happy
helps.
to be like getting paid to be on a show just to like make sugary stuff.
Right? I would totally be down for that. I mean, maybe not the humiliating part if I like really jacked it up. But I mean, yeah, like I feel like even like the token jerk that they have on that show didn't seem like that much of a jerk. And I feel like, I mean, and this is going to sound really stupid, but I can't help it. Probably just because of his accent. I'm like, you guys just, Australians just sound like nice people,
Friendly.
Just sound like good folks. So even though I was like, this guy's kind of a jackass, but it's all right. Like,
That's good. Our secret national plan is working.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway.
Okay, so I think we have reached the point in the script where it is time for us to start pestering you with some questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Woohoo!
Perfect.
So why don't we open with the classic? Who is the best Kenneteer?
I mean, I knew this was coming, but
Doesn't make it easier.
no. I'm like, I've been in between two, like kind of back and forth this whole time. It's honestly, I mean, I love Verona, but it's been pretty much in between Lucy and Avery, and it's kind of gone back and forth depending on whose interlude I read most recently. Or not interlude, but you know what I mean, whose chapter I read most recently. Right now, I'm feeling more Lucy, just because you asked me right now. And that's why. I probably relate more to Avery as a person. Lucy, I feel like I admire her. She's very strong. She kind of really stands up for exactly what she believes in. I really like that she has such a strong sense of like justice and injustice. I really, really like that. So yeah, Lucy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about this question since like I think like before Jenny and I even started recording a podcast, because this is so hard. It's just like, what would I say? And well, so back then it wasn't hard. It was Avery. I relate to Avery a lot in she's just such a Hufflepuff.
Yeah, I feel you.
And Jenny and I are also Hufflepuffs, and I just like was just like, yes, like, and a lot of the like really wanting to be in a relationship and like being anxious and just like a whole bunch of things where I was just like, yep, this girl. I was like, I don't fully get sports, but like otherwise this girl. I really loved her awakening speech. And I really like one of the recent things she did that I really, really admire was in the Tashlitz interlude. They're all talking and like Monty wasn't talking very much. And I'm like, y'all like say something to Monty, like let Monty talk, like somebody like include him is like something I really like and value, I guess, that I really care about is like including others. And literally the next line was Avery was like, hey Monty, like really sorry, like we haven't really been including you much. And I was just like, this girl, like we're on the same wavelength. But I feel like I'm like kind of betraying her because I have doubts about myself and who I think is like my favorite. Because I have become really, really invested in Verona. I originally would get very frustrated when she would like get off track or get like too into the practice, and it was like, okay, this is a scary situation, Verona, and like I'm not really into like darkness or like drawing porn or whatever. Like there's a lot of things where I was like I just like don't get it. And I was like, yeah.
Darkness and porn.
I was just like Verona is like someone I would have been like friends with in high school and like still friends with now. But I didn't understand her and I still don't fully like relate to her. But she has this like quality that I admire so much. And Elliot, you actually mentioned it earlier. It's the it's the first moment where I was like really, really interested in Verona was when she meets Tashlit. Because like I think it's really important to like approach people as like, you know, fellow human beings and to like talk to people and communicate. But like Avery would have been kind of freaked out in that moment and maybe would have tried to be like kind and polite and like not come across as being freaked out. And I think that's what I would do. but Verona didn't have to try, just like was very genuinely interested in Tashla as a person, and like all of the others that she meets. And she's just so good at like really, really caring about other people and like seeing others as humans and not having to like struggle with being uncomfortable around them. That was what like got me into like really being interested in her, and just like her whole like emotional arc. And 10.4, I just like love her so much. So I still can't fully pick, but
hey, I did it. You gotta just pick one. Just for this. I picked one. You gotta just pick one. Just who are you feeling right now? Just right now.
Mm.
Do it. Peer pressure.
Avery. I can't betray Avery like that.
Malia hates
Fair enough.
Verona and Lucy confirmed.
Yep, fair enough.
Hey, Verona's still great.
You can't like multiple characters. You have to only have one that you like.
Well, it's really amazing that Wild Boat, because even when I was like, yeah, Verona's weird, but like that's cool. I never was like, ugh, a Verona chapter. Like I've never been like, oh, I don't want to read this. This character's so annoying or boring or whatever. Like a lot of other book series, and that's been really wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember him talking about that not long after starting the story, just like on Reddit and in Discords, where like that was something he was really sort of conscious of, because like I've definitely, like when I read Lord of the Rings and you'd open it up and it'd be like a Frodo and Sam chapter, and it's like, oh fuck, here we go.
Yep, that's a big mood.
Whereas like every time I sit down for a live read, I'll sort of put it open and it's always like, yay, Lucy chapter, and yay, Rhoda chapter, yay, Avery chapter. And I was like, there's not a point of view that I'm disappointed to see, like, ever.
It's also, they're very well timed. And they're very like, it's always like, oh, I wonder what Avery's thinking about this situation. And then it'll be like an Avery chapter. Or like some of the more recent ones, I've been like, I wonder why this is an Avery chapter. And then like, I will realize why later on in the story. Or it's really, it's so good.
I will say, I mean, I don't know. I feel like even though I didn't list her as a favorite, like a lot of my favorite chapters in the story have been Verona chapters. And I do look forward to reading her chapters because they are very interesting. Just in terms of her as a character, like I just don't relate with her quite as much as the other two. But I really love reading about her and kind of seeing an insight into, I guess, what's going on with her and her messed up family.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Like, I'm the same with Lucy. Like, for me, she's probably the one I relate to the least often, I think. But like, for a long time, despite claiming Verona was my favorite character, it would always be my favorite chapter was like one of Lucy's implement chapters.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if she wasn't, the character I related to the most, that didn't at all detract from my enjoyment of her parts of the story.
For sure. Yeah. It's just really interesting because that's not necessarily what I would have thought from. Like, seems like your favorite one should have your favorite chapters, but not necessarily.
Yeah. Have either
Reuben,
of y'all altered? Yeah.
Yeah, Reuben, where are you at these days?
No, I'm 100% still on the Lucy train.
Sweet.
She's just so wonderful.
She's pretty great. Oh, man. I can see your next question, and I'm like, I have no freaking idea.
This is one I just came up with, and I think this might be one of our new
I really like it.
Which Kennet other would be your first choice for Familiar?
As a follow-up question, are we restricting this to like the originals or like any of the Kennet others?
One of each. No, whoever you want.
Okay, I feel like this is probably a terrible idea in many ways, but I'd probably pick Big G.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like, well, for one, he's fallen to winter. Maybe it would help him stave that off. That's not the main reason, though. Like, he's just fucking, I don't know, he's cool. He's got a lot of life lessons, which can understand, especially if you're, especially as a 13-year-old and especially a 13-year-old who's has a bunch of like life-threatening situations. Not the best, but maybe he needs someone who's a little bit calmer, or like in a calmer state of life, ready to listen to his random ramblings about things, and I feel like glamour and fairy stuff is very cool. I like his whole deal. He's a cool guy. That's what I'd pick. So I hope he's not a
Also-
Carmine dude.
Also some good eye candy.
Right. Unless he's mad at you, and then he'd probably like turn into like something repulsive and then be like, well,
That's true.
this didn't work out for me.
Okay,
It's
Malia,
true.
you're up again.
Yeah, this is hard. Like, oh gosh, who did I just think of? Well, so like part of me wants to be like, oh, Chloe, because I love her and she would have a break, but no, because I don't want
a ghoul.
the
That's so familiar.
ghoul powers or whatever. Yeah. And then there was someone else that I thought of that's going to bother me that was the same sort of thing where it was like, that would be neat, but also I don't want the other aspects of it. I think I want Tashlet because it was Monty, where like I really love his personality but I don't want like the infecting with badness powers or whatever. It's very much not my aesthetic and not my like vibe. But like Tashlet, like I
also would worry with
yeah.
Monty. He seems unable to control who and what he takes over.
Yeah.
So he's probably just a risky proposition in general, because he probably literally can't stop himself from taking over the person he's forming the bond with.
Yeah. Good point.
That's rough.
But yeah, so Tashlet, I feel like that's kind of, I don't know if basic's the right word, but she's just so lovely. And it'd be nice to hang out with her. And I mean, like, she's a healer and she's like has like this like amazing power source. Maybe I don't want like all my clothes to get holes in them or whatever, but she's lovely.
She is.
I do like fairy though. Big G sounds fun. I just don't know if I could like handle the drama constantly.
Yeah, he would be.
That's a good point.
Partner, wouldn't he?
That is a good point. Oof.
Okay, can we force you all to pick?
Yes.
Since you did this to us.
No.
Ruben.
That's not how this works.
Yes.
Come on, Reuben.
I know.
I mean,
the turns have tabled.
Oh god, I should have prepared an answer for this. I guess I would probably say John.
It's a good answer.
Good choice.
The pick. Yeah.
That's a good one. I was almost
just like
thinking about
hang
him.
out and game with your dog
hang
friend.
out,
Dude,
play
heck yeah.
games. You know, he can shoot people for me whenever any of that happens.
That's right. See, that's the ultimate guard dog right there.
Yeah. Beware of the dog. He's got a gun.
Especially, I can just imagine if his familiar form was like a golden retriever or something, and you've got a sign on your like front door. It's like beware of the dog, and this nice looking golden retriever comes up. And it's like, why do I have to be worried? And then suddenly it's a man with a gun.
Yeah, he shoots you.
Yeah, a dog comes trotting out with a gun out in its mouth, and you're like, oh shit.
That's really interesting. Like, what breed would John be? I kind of pictured like a German Shepherd or something.
Yeah,
But
I'm picturing a
I can
German
see that.
Shepherd too.
I could see that.
Poodle.
Hey, poodles are really smart.
I don't know. My family used to have 2 poodles, and that's definitely not a universal thing
No.
for poodles. They were dumb.
Oh, well, shoot. I guess there's exceptions in every part of life. Yeah. That's funny. They're supposed to be really smart. I don't know. Maybe too much inbreeding or something.
Yeah, I think it was these 2 specifically.
Maybe they were so smart that they knew how to act dumb to get like to lower expectations.
Actually, yeah, like, you know what? Maybe.
That's hilarious. All
All right, Elliot.
Try
God,
it.
I was hoping I could skip this
Nope.
question too. I mean, one thought that springs to mind is Sig, just because I want to see what he looks like.
Interesting.
Wow.
Which is not a
Hmm.
good system for choosing a familiar, but
Yeah, I
um,
mean,
yeah, I want to see what that is
What if
like.
he took like a
Do you
a
smoke?
dragon power?
no judgment. I'm just like, if you
Oh
if
no,
you don't,
no, I can't stand the smell of cigarettes.
okay.
Clearly a terrible choice there.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
But what if he
cool.
turns into a dragon, like like fire breathing?
a dragon that
Could-
smells like cigarettes.
It could be worth it.
So you're. How about like? I mean, each to their own.
No, I don't think I'd pick Sig. I like that. I like that thought of what would he be like, because you'd
That's true.
presumably be able to communicate with him better.
That would be interesting. That's an
Um,
interesting thought.
I definitely am vibing the same sort of basic answer of Tashlit as Malia.
Okay, that's a good answer.
she's so
I mean,
great.
she's pretty great.
Toad Swallow, I think I'd make a pitch too. I don't think he'd take me, but I could see myself working with one of the goblins. I'd say Cherry Pop, but not.
No.
Not really.
Yeah. Maybe Peckasnot.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I
He's
don't
a
know. I
cutie.
vibe goblins a lot. I could see myself getting with like one of the goblins.
One of the goblins. That's a good idea. Yeah. I don't know
I
why I
feel
didn't
like-
think about Toad Swallow, but
Doglick's the one with the huge tongue that doesn't say anything, right?
Yes,
one's
I
fun.
believe so.
that's true. That's so good. All right. That was a good question. I do admit.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Um,
that you guys had to answer it.
Yeah, I didn't think that part through.
It's all right. Now you've got an answer at least. So
Okay, so definitions of one after another, or and the meanings of that archetype. So this is another definition that probably doesn't need to be spelled out for most people, but just in case, the definition of one after another is things following each other in quick succession.
Thanks for that one.
It's tradition, okay? If these books have taught me anything, it's that you've got to follow the pattern, Reuben. And we always give the definition.
Fair enough.
That's true.
So yeah, I mean, what meanings are we vibing from one after another?
I mean, I like the one you wrote down that, I mean, Edith was after another.
Well,
It's like one, was
She
after
got him.
another. Yep, she sure did. Yeah, and if anything, yeah, it just seemed like a good title for the layout of the chapter in terms of like following each other in quick succession, like each interlude, like kind of came, which I do have to say, these are not my ideas. Like, they definitely wrote these down, so I'm just copying.
I think that one
just-
is probably the like I'm sure a lot of people have noticed that one. Like it's such
that's true.
Yeah, I think like also there's like lots of little bits. Like the one that stood out to me reading the first chapter was the way the promenade was set up. Like the Garricks were having everyone go on like one at a time.
Mhm.
And I noticed bits like that in various chapters, where it just kind of felt like a lot of them really dove into the backstories of the others, and we sort of all got to see the grind they'd gone through to get to where they are. So yeah, well, that's not the strongest connection, but that was just something that kept jumping out to me is seeing the way everyone sort of got here just through being beaten down piece by piece.
No, I feel like it tracks. Like, makes sense.
Yeah. I thought of a ridiculous one.
No, you got to share this. It fits
Yeah, no,
perfectly
I-
with the theme, guys.
So, you may be aware that there's a claymation movie called Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I'm not even lying. That's the name of this movie. And one of the songs in the movie is one foot in front of the other. It's put one foot in front of the other. Do-do-do-do. Where Nick, aka Santa, teaches the Winter Warlock how to walk because
Oh
he
my
just
God,
like forgot or something.
I just googled this, and the graphics are horrifying.
Hey, it's claymation, okay?
Shit, it's a great movie. And so there's like the this episode started, or last episode started with Santa Claus is coming to town, and then it's one after another where you put one foot in front of the other, and Edith learns to walk. So
But the thing I like about this theory is not only is it such a path to go down to get to the connection, but the arc isn't called one foot in front of the other.
Hey,
it's called one after another, which isn't what the song is. It doesn't. There's no connection there. I don't understand.
Hey, that is really close. Okay, when you're walking, you put one foot after another, right? Like, kind of. I mean, it's in front of the other. Don't think about it that hard. It's following
the word
each foot.
Wait. It's the word one, and then a preposition, and then an article, and then other.
There you go. I mean,
Reuben,
what else can you guys be asking for?
Reuben, let's not pretend like we haven't brought worse connections to some of these arc title segments throughout the years.
Like the foot's like your feet are following each other in quick succession, and that's how you're walking.
Just
right?
like the chapters in this arc. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, don't be a hater. It works.
I do think this is like the arc title that I'll remember the most, just because like this is the Others interlude arc. And so it's just one after another, other.
Yeah. I also like, just as a bit of an aside from the title, I just loved this format of kind of each interlude giving us a sneak peek at somebody on like a different, for want of a better word, team in Kennet. And then, of course, ending it with, like the girl who's made of many pieces herself. And like seeing how she is formed of also many different teams. Like,
that's so cool. True. Yeah, this is a great arc. So, super happy to be talking about this, as we've said before, but it's a pretty wonderful one.
Okay, so now the big question that we force everyone to answer, and I think there's going to be at least one part of this which you guys have a bit of a leg up on most people, but who done it?
All right, Malia. You start.
So I'm gonna plug our other podcast / I'm gonna say what my mom would say if she were here. So this isn't exactly a whodunit theory. It's more of a the what the story is really about theory.
Yes.
So if y'all listen to our episode, our mom critiques Wild Bow, you'll know that our mom believes that nope.
Yeah.
That Matthew and Louise are destined to be together. And I really was like, oh, it's because they kissed, Mom, that's lame. And she's like, no, that kiss was horrible. And I'm like, what basis do you have for this relationship? But Matthew is a warm and kind and loving man who, he wants to give you your coat. He wants to take care of you. He wants to be there for you. And Louise needs all of that and much more. And thus they're perfect together. And they live in this small town. They like the woods. I'm sure there were other reasons. They're around the same age.
We already talked about this a bit before we started recording, but I got to say, my favorite part about this theory from your mom was she spent the first half of the episode before talking about this just ragging on Louise and talking about how she was useless and wouldn't change. And then, so she like the sequence of events was Louise is awful and not going to change. Matthew's really nice. I hope they end up together. And I was just like, poor Matt.
I think that maybe my mom would think that Matthew is the one person who could help Louise change.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this story is actually a love story.
Yeah.
And Matthew and Louise will end up together, which, as we've seen, has started to become more and more likely possibility.
Yeah, it's more likely now than it's ever been. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, gotta give it to my mom,
Yeah. So, I think there was something was wrapped up in there when we were talking about it in terms of like Matthew is innocent, and Edith's involvement with the whole Carmine thing will drive him into Louise's arms or something like that.
That's right. I mean,
well, she's at least half right.
yeah.
See where it goes.
See where he gets driven to. Yeah. I mean, we'll see where it goes. See how right my mom is about that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. And then, did you want to talk about this other one we have listed, or do you want to just talk about like your big new exciting one?
I guess we could. I mean, I don't know. We could mention it real quick, I guess.
Okay. Well, I'll mention this one briefly then. One of like a somewhat serious theory we have is that the judges helped orchestrate the Carmine Beast's death or disappearance. Like maybe they wanted someone like John in the position who was more controllable, or someone that they liked more. It seems like maybe the Carmine Beast wasn't like super beloved by everyone. And so there's a thought that maybe they're involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. It was like if the Carmine Beast was a dick, and they know John's just sitting there not doing anything.
He's just playing video games. I mean, come on, like
and waiting. Yeah,
that's true.
Okay, and so what's this? We've only got 2 words here in the script.
red herring.
From me and Reuben. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, I'm honestly really proud of this one, so I'm hoping that you guys think that this is a pretty good one. So basically, started out by thinking maybe the furs are a red herring. You know, we're thinking
they're red.
Yeah, because they're red furs, so it fits so well. But I mean, we're seeing that the main, no one seems to be that concerned that they're missing, right? But yet, like, we can see that they were stolen, and it looks like people are making clothes out of them and all that. So there has to be something to it, right? So I'm thinking that the furs, they're red herring at the main conspirator that wants to take the throne. The throne doesn't actually need them to take the throne. So I was thinking that they were being made into clothes specifically for Charles. So whether he's being forced to do this or he's part, I mean, I'm thinking maybe he's part of this in a way. But these clothes are basically being made for him in order to give him more claim and power so that he could originally take the seat. And even if John gets picked by the judges, I'm thinking it probably wouldn't be beyond their means to give Charles enough tools and power and everything to maybe defeat John, right? So then he'd be in the seat. But his actual role is to be defeated by the actual person who wants the throne. And he's okay with doing this because the guy that's ultimately going to become the judge agreed with reversing his forswearing. Defeating Charles doesn't necessarily mean killing him. So specifically, with the Carmine Beast and John and Charles being defeated, that's a 3 beat there. So that makes it an extra, oomph for this, whoever's going to be taking the seat.
Okay.
Those are my thoughts.
And who do you think would be that person?
I haven't gotten that far.
I mean, this sounds convoluted enough to be very bullshit. Like, that's so many steps.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we're just thinking that was all Jenny's
rambling, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of really interesting because possibly they're okay, we'll just skip the Charles part, whatever. But it's like why wouldn't these people care? But care enough to try to make clothes was sort of the impetus for this question.
That's the thing. They don't really care, but they kind of do.
My guess at this point is I've just assumed maybe the shitty attempts to sew them into clothes, that was the red herring. That feels like a Marissa Curry thing, because that way
that could be it.
If somebody finds them and sees that they've been working with them, it makes people like the Canneteers and us assume they're important. Maybe they did that in the first day, and they're like, oh, this is good enough to fake we give a shit about these.
That's fair.
I don't know though.
I don't know. I feel like I'm worried I rambled too much, but I feel like I don't know. It's because the whole thing is they need to. I guess at least my understanding is once they challenge, really, like, there needs to be at least one challenger, in order to, either get the seat or whatever. I feel like once you challenge and claim that throne, you're probably less likely to be challenged again, just because you already kind of proved, like, I won. So, just like adding a 3-beat into it. And I mean, there's no way Charles is going to be able to do that on his own without some power. And who's going to, want to try to step up and, get their throne just to be like defeated immediately, unless it's Charles. But
yeah, or Marissa just like doesn't actually care and just wanted to like stir shit up and see what happens. Because I just don't really see her being like, yes, I am the evil villain who wants to be the Carmine, whatever. Like that just seems too boring for her.
Yeah, I'm not convinced it's Marissa that wants to sit on the throne. I don't know. It just seems like it's going to be something sneakier than that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see her being the sort to want to put herself on the throne. I think she's in this for a whole bunch of other bullshit I probably can't begin to comprehend.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's reasonable. But yes. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Big G would be a perfect familiar for me because this is pretty convoluted.
That's actually where I thought you were going with this. I thought you were going to say that Gourmet was that last person, that third person you were talking about. I was getting ready for that.
I know. I guess I should have just like gone real bold and hard with that, like with just picking somebody, but I didn't get that far. I was mostly like, this is Charles's role, I hope it wasn't Big G, because then I can't have him as a familiar anymore.
That's the reason.
That's the reason. Yeah.
Okay.
So is there anything else we want to say about this arc? We should point out we're going to have a back-to-packed section after the outro. So stay tuned for that.
It would be crazy not to.
Yeah, of course.
For this one.
All right. Well, yeah. Again, Malia and Jenny, thank you both for coming on the show. If people want to check out more from you two, they can look up Pale in Comparison, a very, very fun podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on. This has been really fun.
Thank you, guys.
It's been a treat.
Love talking about any Wild Buzz stories, especially. I feel like there's not a lot of people in my actual like day-to-day life that read them, so it's hard to. I've tried to get people.
You got to get on that. Yeah.
I know. I'm trying, man, but they're like, oh yeah, I'll totally read that, and then they don't read it. So
I'm currently going through that with my sister. She's promised that she's going to start Pale, and then it's like every time I talk to her, she's like, yeah, like very soon.
Classic.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the end of this episode, apart from the back-to-back, so stay tuned. But other than that, if you want more from us, you can check out our Twitter at Pale Reflections.
It's actually at Pale Reflect Cast.
Pale Reflect Cast, sorry, thank you. I'm still not used to it.
Yes, you can also head to doofmedia.com to find out about all the other shows on Doof Media. Kingslingers has just started season 2, so now they're done with the Dark Tower and they're moving on to like all that other crap Stephen King's published, which is a lot of it.
Starting with Salem's Lot, which I think is my favorite Stephen King book. So I've got my copy coming, so I can read it and then listen to their first episode on it. But yeah, I'm excited for that. If you want to support the shows on the Doof Media Network, you can go to the Patreon at patreon.com/Doof Media and become a donor to get all kinds of cool perks.
Yep, and don't forget about Wildbow's Patreon, patreon.com/Wildbow. He made this.
Yes, so give him money.
Wildbow.
But of course, Jenny, do you want to take us out with a fun fact?
Sure. I figured since I'm here, I just give you guys some knowledge. Jingle Bells was the first song played in space on December 16th, 1965.
I appreciate you bringing a holiday-themed fact to our holiday special episode.
Thank you. Yeah, and like no one's really brought up Jingle Bells yet, which of course was like Raphael's thing because he had a bunch of jingly bells everywhere.
my
So
God.
Oh my god,
What are
it's
we
so
doing?
perfect.
Oh,
that's
okay,
good.
no, cancel the episode. We've got to start again. Everybody, stop your recording. We're going again.
maybe I should have brought this up earlier.
So
Sorry, just as an aside, what does it mean to play a song in space? Because I've heard from the movies that in space no one can hear you scream, and I assume this also applies to singing.
I mean, that's probably true, but
I'm just wondering what form this actually took. Wait, was this the first person playing musical instruments on
Yeah.
the space station?
you know
Or was
what?
it
I
like a
wish that I had kept that
recording?
link up. Let me Google real quick.
it's not so many follow-up questions usually.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you
No,
on
it's okay.
blast.
We
was-
demand more information.
It was apparently broadcast during NASA's Gemini 6A spaceflight.
Also, like
Um,
played over the
Over the broadcast
airwaves.
radio
link.
to
Yeah.
Nice.
ground.
So
and blah, blah,
that's
The lack
reasonable.
of airwaves, as it were.
That would be
Fun
really
fact.
sad if like their first thing was like to try to like just like hold a radio out in actual space and you couldn't
blah.
hear
Everyone's
anything.
like, oh wait, turns out you can't hear anything out here.
Like, oh, like this is a pointless. This was totally pointless.
Well, if you haven't, the next section is going to feature some packed spoilers. So if you don't know, who's in the mirror and you don't want us to tell you, etc. Anyway, let's go back to fact, shall we?
Yes.
Yay! Back to Pact Part 1, where I can be here.
Oh yeah. So we should
Yay!
point out we're going to do some packed spoiler stuff that Malia can join in on, and then we're going to kick you out.
In a nice way.
This will include spoilers through like 2.5 or so, is I think where I've read to. So a little bit ahead of the podcast, if any of you people are still
Really
listening
confused.
who are just following like our podcast, this will have a little bit of spoilers for that, I guess.
In my experience, there's never many of those people because everyone's just like, oh, I'm just going to read a chapter. And then suddenly they're 4 arcs ahead of you. And it's like, you said you were going to keep pace with us. What are you doing?
Yeah, that happened to us a lot. People said, oh yeah, I was keeping pace with the podcast, but then I just read ahead.
I just couldn't help it.
But then there was more story. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few chapters where I very nearly broke down. Just read it early. Like, there's a couple of cliffhangers in there that I was like, I can't do this.
Like, really? Yeah. No, it's hard. It takes a lot of willpower. So, props to you guys.
So can we, just to confirm, 2.5, what's that? Where are we at in the story?
Okay, so they or maybe 2.6. They've met the lawyers. The Echo of June has been bound into the hatchet thingy. The lawyer showed up at the house, and then Ms. Lewis takes them on a walk where they fight a fairy familiar and then drop off a letter, and then they see that Johannes's domain is a vestige, and then Maggie's at the house.
Yeah, cool. All right.
That's what I remember. But yeah, this arc seemed like a very like I think I mentioned this on an episode coming out soon, but I bet y'all were all freaking out about like the witch hunters, or like about Raph in particular, and the idea of like a witch hunter like being in town, just because like the Pact witch hunters are really scary and violent so far, and they're just like, let's execute everyone, woo. And then Elliot, you're like, oh, Melissa, you should be the witch hunter of Kennett. I was like, that sounds horrible. Like her job will just be to stand around and be like, let's execute people. I'm so hype.
I mean, I assume that there's some discretion in the role as to...
Yeah, Ava seems especially bloodthirsty, I guess.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
She's very fun.
Yeah. She's real excited to murder people, which is cool.
Yeah, she's real bloodthirsty for sure.
Yeah.
I guess I'd be interested then. What has Raph impacted your impression of Andy and Eva and where you think they might be going? And feel free to tell me if this is stuff you've already covered. And I'm asking questions Jenny already did.
No.
No, I don't think I did.
I mean, I haven't gotten a lot of them so far. I got like them in the vision where they're like, ooh, the metronome's knocked over. Let's go fight and hunt crap. And then I've gotten like, they met them in the alleyway and we're like, we're excited to murder you. Blake was like, that's nice. I mean, Raph seems just like very, very competent and like, but also like very serious. Whereas like Ava is like, seems like she enjoys this too much. And it's interesting to think about people like being posted up in a town. As opposed to like traveling from place to place, that like the practitioners and everything like accept them or maybe even have hired them because they are useful in possibly like, yeah, I mean, keeping order by like executing people who step out of line. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about them, but also they're scary.
Yeah, they are scary.
Yeah. Another thing is I've been struggling a lot with like Blake's karma and how he doesn't deserve it. And like it occurred to me that the people who like tortured Chloe horribly probably have better karma than Blake. And I'm just like so mad. Yeah. Like it just seems like that must be true. And I'm just so mad about it. Like poor Blake.
Poor Blake.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
kinda
Well, you
rough.
think like Charles is the other one. Like
Yeah.
he like sure he stuffed up, but like he didn't deserve where he is now for what he's being punished for. Like
No.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And especially it's like Alexander was like designed it and wanted it to happen and was like, oh, I'm your friend, except not really. And just like, and it's really frustrating that the universe can't see through that. Just like it's really frustrating that the universe can't acknowledge like, oh, Blake has done nothing wrong. Like it's just this bizarre system that is both like all knowing and yet like really, really dumb. What I was gonna move on to the fairy, if that's
Yeah, do it.
okay. So so the fairy that Blake fights, like I didn't guess that it was a fairy in our episode. I was like, oh, this must be a practitioner because why would some fucking fairy be here to fight Blake? That seems weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, yeah, because like why is some fairy following some practitioner's orders? Like this fairy must be lame. And I mean she was like scary and whatever, but in the chapter they were like, yeah, she must have fucked up to become some practitioner's familiar. And just like all of Mariska's bullshit and all of the like crazy machinations and how, you know, powerful Gilmay is and stuff like reiterated throughout this arc. It's just like, oh yeah, like that fairy was lame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say I've never been in the seat of the person with the foreknowledge
Who can't
before,
talk.
so I don't. How do we not comment? Because it's a great point, but we can't actually say anything.
Jenny started saying neutral response.
Yeah.
Okay,
I started trying to say neutral response.
Someone
at
suggested
the suggestion of someone, and I don't know if it's making it seem more neutral or not. I almost feel like it seems more suspicious now. But
I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear it.
Reuben had this incredible ability to like just seed in like red herrings as well as bits. Like he had, I was always on my toes because he would always like sometimes just straight up lie about something or mislead me.
Or just forget.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic. Oh man.
Okay, so then the last thing is that this was a fun arc to compare with what we've been reading just because of like the echoes. There's like, you know, Sydney and the Girl by Candlelight in general versus June. And it was interesting thinking about June, who I put in the notes like June is cold but trusting and the Girl by Candlelight is hot but afraid. Like June, I like how she chooses to go into the hatchet. And I like how Blake treats her and talks to her. And even though June's Echo's like experience is like horribly traumatic and she doesn't have nearly as many aspects as like GBC does, a lot of her, I mean, it might not, I might be projecting, it might not be like kindness and compassion. It might really just be like, oh, this is literally better than like wandering out back here in the forest or whatever. But I just like that she was able to like choose in that moment, and I just feel a lot of like warm feelings toward her and like compassion towards her. And like June, or like when Blake like throws the hatchet to like distract the fairy, and then later he goes and picks like it up and like apologizes to her. I was just like, this is so lovely. I love Blake so much. But then the girl by candlelight is like, you know, the opposite. She's fire, she's heat, she has all these different aspects, but then she's also just like very untrusting to the point where she doesn't even trust her husband to love her. She just like completely and totally like shuts off and bars herself from the ability to trust people. And maybe like she has more to lose than June does. But it was kind of an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I like that. Like, comparison.
Yes,
that's what we do.
That's wonderful. Any other thoughts, Malia? You think about that you want to get into about anything Pact and Pale related or this chapter?
No. Not that I can think of, unless y'all had like a question, but
no, I do just want to point out to everyone that it's kind of funny that we cut our first episode short to make sure it didn't get too crazy long. If you guys noticed how long we've been recording.
Yeah, we're almost at 3 hours. It's wild.
I know. Wow. Just wanted to point that out.
But yeah. So I guess thanks, y'all. I'm very excited to hear the rest of your conversation in like 2.5 years when I'm going to come through and re-listen to this podcast so I can hear all your back-to-backs.
Yes.
Okay, we have to make a list of which ones had back-to-backs for people. So you don't have to re-listen
definitely
to
all the reflecting ones, I think. But yeah, some of
at least most of them.
Yeah, other ones did too.
That's true.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I guess at this point, Malia, we must ask you to don't close your tab because Zencaster will hate that. But
right, I was going to say, how do I do this?
All right. Bye, Malia.
Bye.
Okay, now that Malia's gone, let's get
into
real hardcore spoilers.
So gosh, I mean, just as an aside, like I'm just so enjoying the experience of Pale in comparison, just because watching somebody who's read Pale go through Pact has been such a delight, because they're surprisingly different stories, and I think Pact threw like us a bit off when we tried to approach Pale. Like there was definitely a teething period where we were trying to treat it like Pact 2 and then realized that wasn't the case, and so watching Malia try to pass it as like Pale 0 is just
great.
Everything I wanted.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you guys. We're honestly, we were hoping people would like it, but I don't think we expected this many people to actually like what we were saying. So thank you very much. It's been super fun for me. I'm sure for her too, but man, some of her predictions she's got pretty darn close. The most recent one that hasn't come out yet in particular, she should I just tell you guys what her most recent one
give us
was?
a teaser for the prediction.
A teaser. She actually predicted that she was like, I don't feel very confident in this, but I think that Rose was made in order to take Blake's place if something happened.
Ooh,
nice.
I was like,
juicy. That's juicy.
Neutrality. I was like, neutral response. But and she was like, I'm not super, super confident in this, and she was like, she gave a pretty good explanation. But man, I'm really glad that it's her that hasn't read it, because I feel like I don't know, she does a really good job at going through and I guess really thinking through all of her reasoning and coming up with some really good theories. Not to say I wouldn't be doing that, but I feel like she does a really good job at that in particular. So
I think she's doing better than I did. I'm pretty confident saying that. Yes, a lot of her predictions have been very good. That Thinking Lead and Grandma Rose is definitely a standout.
The which one?
thinking that Laird and Grandma Rose
I
got
know.
together was such a standout.
I was like, oh, you're so close.
Like I don't know what you guys have put that down as in your prediction tracker, but I'd give that one a kind of at least. Like she deserves
Yeah.
50% credit.
Partial
for that
credit,
one.
yeah.
I have to check that actually. I feel like she's been mostly giving herself like the marks because I don't want to accidentally give her the answer. I'll have to check on that.
One of mine I remember was like Isadora is on Blake's side. And I think they had to switch that one between yes and no about 8 times.
That's awesome. But yeah, it's been really fun reading over the story again, especially with her. Because she's not the kind of person I would have picked to have introduced a pact, just because right off the bat at least, just because it can get pretty as you guys know, pretty spooky to say the least at times. But yeah, I mean, I feel like after she's reading Pale and everything, I'm really glad that we're doing this, and hopefully it doesn't scar her for life too much once we get to some of those future parts.
I think the milkmaid obviously came up in this episode, and it's like that's
probably the worst
about
one.
as bad as Pact gets.
Yeah.
Like that, and that was a very pacty scene. Like that whole thing with the milkmaid, I was like, oh, this is the Abyss shenanigans I know and love.
Yeah. No, for real. When she said earlier, like, oh, like it wasn't as bad because it was a dream, I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No,
whatever.
That shit happened.
Yeah, that happened. So tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself. But
actually, my other thing that I really love about like seeing people from Pale coming into Pact is just every time Malia sort of is like, oh, people are so unfair to demons.
I know.
It's always just like, oh, this is going to be so good when you find out that actually, I don't really think they are.
That's correct. Yeah. I'm excited for that too.
Oh, I know. I had the hardest time like just being neutral during some of those when, I mean, I'm sure that was obvious listening to it, but I was just like, really? Like the demons? Like, but which is really funny we're both Catholic. I don't know, just to be talking about like, oh, the nice little demons. There's just something kind of funny about it to me. But,
I think Malia said that at one point. She was like, oh, I'm sure the demons aren't that bad. And I know that's weird to say as a Catholic. And I was like, no, you actually weird. Like, you should be leaning into that instinct actually, because
yeah, you should definitely be leaning into the bad demon instinct. But yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see when we go forward. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about. I'm really excited. I think like our next ones she has to read are, let me see. I think it's like the familiar text domain that like Maggie's kind of reading over, and then says like damages 2.7 is like where Maggie's there, and Laird kind of spills the beans.
When does Laird reveal that 2.7? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's coming up soon. That's going to be a fun moment.
Yes.
And then after that is Maggie's interlude, which will be
so that's going to be really interesting too. So
because that's like we've painted the nicer picture of goblins here in Pale, but
yes,
I feel like Maggie's backstory starts to paint the more hyena version of events.
I'm really, really curious, like what she's going to think about all that, because I know so far goblins have been pretty like, I mean, they're kind of gross and kind of violent and stuff, but they've been pretty like tame, you know? So I'm very curious to see what she's going to think about that. Yeah. Speaking of goblins, Turd Swallow, woo!
Yeah.
So I'm going to also be excited when we reach him in the story, just for her to be like, wait, is that? And she'll be like, yeah, it's gonna be great.
And Dee Dee, the poke crossover was very seeing Dee Dee
for sure. Yeah, I know. I'm like, we probably should do a poke. Like we should probably read that. I don't know when we would get to that though. I'm guessing just sometime after this is over, but that would be fun to go after.
Yeah.
Go over that for
The
sure.
one reason I recommend people finish Pact before doing Poke, it depends how spoiler conscious you are, but because Mags, not
Yeah,
Maggie, Mags is
Mags.
in Poke, like technically you could count that as a spoiler for her surviving the end of Pact. I know some people who would
Yeah, I
feel
guess
that
that's
way.
true. Yeah, we'll probably
So-
just wait until after. But that is a delightful and a really weird and delightful story. So, let me see. Oh, I thought it was pretty, I guess, just like the whole familiar ritual with Avery and Snowdrop.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, I don't know, that was really neat. They were able to do everything with no diagrams, and like, everything was kind of on their side, and just trying to think back to like Blake and Evan.
Yeah, it was like the opposite of theirs. Like theirs was rushed. They just followed the book to a T.
Yeah.
The only person there was Rose. Like it was almost the opposite familiar ritual.
Yeah, it's like the difference between having like a nice warm family like intimate wedding and going to Vegas through the drive-through wedding, you know. Like,
that's a pretty good analogy, actually. Like, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar, like shotgun wedding style. So, yeah, so it was kind of it's nice to see all the little wholesome elements. This story is a lot more wholesome in a lot of ways. So,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's definitely not what I'd call like a real light story in general, but for Wild though, like I feel like there's more hope that the protagonist and everything might come out somewhat whole, you know. So,
Yeah. Well,
which is
hard
kind of
to
nice.
do worse than Blake.
Yeah, Blake just really yeah. I mean, he went through the abyss. Like, I mean, that's pretty much like the what do you call it? Pregnancy brain. I can't think of like. Okay, it's basically like the garbage disposal of like
Yeah.
the other verse in a way. Like it kind of just chews you up and usually doesn't spit you out unless you're really tough and then you're going to be dinged up like crazy. I don't think
sorry, in 10.z where we saw the abyss for a bit there,
Yeah.
Edith had the lantern that was tainted by the abyss and she was carrying that around with her, and I was like, oh, don't fucking tell me that the abyss has had its hands in Pale this whole fucking time.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that kind of freaked me out a little bit too. Yeah, that whole abyss part, with, I guess we didn't really touch on this that much when we were talking about the podcast, but where that practitioner is dragging his like stepdaughter down there, like
yeah, pretty rough.
That was really rough. And just knowing like that they both
have gone
down
to a not good place.
Yeah. And
yeah,
like, oh man, like what happened to those guys? Don't think.
I wish I could have found like an organic way to ask Malia what she thinks of the abyss in a way that, like, I'm just worried I can't do that in a way that doesn't totally give away that we know a lot more about it.
It's pretty impossible to just be like, hey, what do you think about this, without implying it's going to be important.
Because it's just like the snippets we get of it in Pale is stuff like the Abyss Beast. This guy says they thought it was hell for ages. I'm just wondering what Pale readers must be picturing when they think of the Abyss.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely not painting a pretty picture of it for sure, but yeah, I don't know. I know I'd love to ask her too, but yeah, I don't have a good way of doing it yet. Yeah, like when did we start getting into the Abyss Impact? I'm trying to remember. Like, I mean, it's a ways, I think, but
yeah. Well, I think like the name gets dropped occasionally when they're in Toronto, but it's not really until Blake's in it in Arc 9 that I think, and it's just called the Drains for all. I don't think we actually learn it's the Abyss until like Arc 10 or 11. It's really far in.
That is pretty far.
Like it's a presence in the story for quite a while before the Abyss becomes like the general term for it from memory.
Okay. I kind of forgot exactly when the term started, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Kind of random because I just like, do you guys have garbage disposals? I feel like I've heard
No,
that.
we don't.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I just
I
figured.
see them as such an American thing.
Yeah, they're iconically American in my mind.
I mean,
it's
they're
just like-
pretty useful, but I can see
So
why
They do seem useful.
Yeah, I
but
mean, they
there's the
kind of.
bin. Like,
Yeah, but like if you're peeling like potatoes or something like that, and you're not, I don't know. It's at least
Yeah, but
it's
I
more
guess I don't peel potatoes in a sink. I just peel
them over the bin.
on a chopping board or something, and then chuck the peel in the compost.
I guess that makes sense. I don't know, but you don't get to flick a switch and like hear
that's
like
the
the
part
grind of
Yeah.
like
having
the death, like
blender
you know.
in my sink.
Exactly, like yeah, it does kind of suck if you drop something down there that you kind of need to get out. I mean, obviously just don't turn the switch on and you're fine, but like sometimes like you'll find out. I'm pretty sure that I lost a really nice shot glass down there once and turned on the garbage disposal and heard this awful noise and then tried to check, and it was fine, except that my favorite or a really nice shot glass was just like it was not there anymore except for some little shards. Yeah, that wasn't good. So those I didn't try to pick up the glass.
Yeah, put it back together like a jigsaw.
Yeah, that would have gone over real great. But yeah, anyway, I was just curious about that. But yeah, no, this has been a really fun podcast to do. So I'm excited to keep on reading into more Pact stuff, and now we're getting my mom into it, which is just hilarious. I feel like we all have pretty good chemistry. So it's fun to, I mean, we've always kind of talked about like, with each other, like, it'd be kind of fun to have like a little, like, or, what if someone could just look into our life, like if they think it's hilarious, or, I mean, maybe not, but I don't know. At least people seem to think it's funny when we talk to each other. So, we'll try to get my mom on, make more cards, more, Pale related cards.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely very much enjoying both shows.
Well, thank you.
Your mum brought a hilarious, a different energy to hers, which I liked. And I haven't mentioned yet, but like Malia being a law student is perfect for Pact. Like it leans into the legal side of this world much more overtly.
It really is, and as stupid as it sounds, I honestly didn't even think about that before we were when we were starting the podcast. And then when we started recording, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even this is perfect. Like, why didn't I think about that? I know I really like it when she brings in different aspects of actual law that,
yeah, it's really fun vibe.
Well, yeah, I just learned about damages yesterday. Like, yeah, she gave me a full 10-minute lecture on what damages are. That was actually kind of useful.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, I know nothing about law, so I'm always like, yeah, feel free to keep talking about that. It's pretty interesting. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Anything else that we should bring?
I'm excited to see her reaction to the Fae in Jacob's Bell over time. I think that would be very interesting. Depending on what happens in Pale, obviously, because we don't know how evil Marisica or Guilherme might be. But I just think it's going to be very fun to watch that kind of unravel.
Yeah, because I think Waldo kind of played a trick on all of us when we came into Pale. All of us Pact readers, like, oh shit, there's 2 fairies, like burn the town down, run away.
Yeah.
And then even if Marisica is like the villain or whatever, in general, the 2 of them have actually been incredibly like helpful in some ways.
True.
So, yeah, like it's just another one of those examples where someone coming from Pale is going to give so much more leeway to just the complete monsters that Pact has in it.
I know it's so interesting because I know that like coming from Pact to Pale, I was like, just immediately suspicious of all the others, and I don't know, especially the fairy, like,
Well, I think the whole Mags thing is like so iconic in Pact, right?
Yeah,
I'm just very excited for Malia to see that unravel and be like, "Oh fuck, this is so fucked."
Oh, I know. I remember reading that for the first time and just being like, "What?" And then just like it just dawns like just the way it just dawns on her, and just that little mistake of forgetting like that her homework was in her bag just like unraveled her whole life, which is insane. And it's just because they're bored, yeah, I'm excited for that part. And yeah. There's so many fun reveal things that we're gonna get that
Yep.
yeah, I'm really excited when she figures out like I don't know, just that Blake's vestige, like I don't know, it's gonna be really fun.
Yeah, a lot of cool reveals to get to.
Definitely.
All right, well, there's that.
All right, there's that.
That's that.
Thank you guys so much for having us on. We've had a really fun time the past couple recording sessions. So, yeah, thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Thanks for coming.
Of course.